this is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got everything outside of both of them. Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God! Oh, big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Six very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no, that's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?
Welcome one and welcome all to SimSpeed TV to kick off the V8SCOPS season for 2022. Friday night and Saturday night we'll be running the Logitech G V8SCOPS support series, starting of course at the magnificent Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal. We got 3 categories racing for you this weekend. V8s, the old Australian touring cars from 2014. Porsche Cup up next, and then to finish off the night, the 2-litre Tourers racing TCR machines around this brilliant racetrack. And to bring it all to you live here on SimSpeed TV is myself, Reese Gardner, and it is Bradley Wingard alongside me in the commentary box. Brad, I've been hyped for this for a while. V8SCOPS supports last year provided some of the best racing last year. Now with Logitech G on board as a title sponsor, big thanks to you guys for supporting this series. It's going to get even better.
Yeah, good evening, Reese. It absolutely is. I only managed to commentate one round last year, which was the Imola 500 round, and that was an absolute blast. So I'm very much looking forward to tonight. Nice, tight street circuit. Of course, most of these cars race on street circuits around the world, so this should be familiar territory for all of them, but I'm very excited to see what it cooks up tonight.
As am I. The Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, it's been around since 1978 and most famous as the host of the Formula One Canadian Grand Prix. It's gone under a few changes throughout the years, and in fact it's rare amongst racetracks in that the current layout is the simplest it's ever been. It was quite a bit twistier when it first opened, but there's plenty of good overtaking opportunities, big heavy braking zones, and a series of chicanes around the back of the lap, Brad, that is really going to test the drivers when it comes to trying not to exceed track limits. There's been a couple of changes to this track when it comes to how off tracks are determined. I think some drivers are going to be racking them up tonight.
Yeah, as soon as you brought that up, that's exactly what I was going to hint at. It's been very hotly debated in Discord in the week and a half leading up to this race in both SCOPS and in the support categories. So it's going to be interesting to see how the drivers navigate that tonight. And we know what round 1 is like. Everyone's really nervous. There's usually a crash through turn 1, turn 2 in both the split 1 and split 2 races last year. So hopefully those off tracks are going to make people a little bit more cautious and have to use them wisely, but I guess we'll find out in a few minutes because it's anyone's guess.
Yeah, the main concern for the drivers is going to be that incident limit. They're only allowed 20 before they get a drive-through penalty assigned automatically by the iRacing service. And then every other 15 incidents thereafter, you get another drive-through penalty. Leading the way through turn 1 here, Team Jinx Shifters, Aaron Gilbert leading the charge. Aaron was the champion of the V8 support category last season. He'll be looking to repeat that this year, and with only half of the amount of time left in qualifying, it's going to be interesting to see if he can jump up past Daniel Stevens at the top of the standings. Stevens also a long-time competitor in SCOPS supports, but we have a few new faces joining the series, among them Cruz Mason, who we just took a look at, Brett O'Keefe driving for KRF. And that is a team that is nothing short of veteran status in the AusNZ sim racing community. Kimmy's rural fencing cars have been out there for many years.
Yeah, I remember hearing them when I first joined iRacing in the Australian V8 community. I think that was 5.5 years ago, so I'm even a young'un compared to those guys. So great to see them still running around, and it's great to see these cars having a purpose again, because they seem to have picked up popularity since they got updated when the new damage model and new tire model came out. So fantastic that we have both the KRF guys to running and these cars turning laps at the same time.
Indeed. Fantastic to see. Well, Aaron Gilbert coming up to the end of a hot lap here. Let's see if it's good enough for pole. 1 minute 36.1. That's a few tenths off Daniel Stevens, but he has dragged his teammate Henry King just behind him there up into 5th place. They currently sit 4 and 5 in the Jinx Shifters machines. And checking out the 555 here, Gavin Cox driving for Middle Finger Racing. It's an MFR 1-2 up at the front of the field at the moment, with Daniel Stevens still on provisional pole. Cox has been doing pretty well in this session, not too far off his teammate. What about James Anderson? He's currently there in 3rd place and looking to start another hot lap. A very challenging track is Montreal, especially in these cars.
Yeah, it really is. Only 2 corners aren't technically chicanes, and that's turn 5, which is that long right sweeping hander before the 6 and 7 chicane, and of course the hairpins. So in these cars where you have to be have straight steering before you can get to full throttle, even then it's a bit dicey. A bunch of chicanes one after the other is really, really difficult to navigate.
That's an improvement there for Dylan Thomas into the 36s now. Hasn't gained him any places on the provisional grid, but it'll certainly be a good development for him. Simon Mazzomo, meanwhile, crosses the line, 37.162 his previous time, just beginning another hot lap now. And Mazzomo, the leading driver who has not set a time, we're still waiting on times from Mazzomo, from Kobe Marshall, from Jordan Goliker, and this guy here, Cruz Mason. But he is coming to the end of a lap here in the number 43, driving for Race on Oz. Will he be able to slip into the 36s? Looks like he will. 36.885 for Cruz Mason. At least it would have been if it counted, but looks like it hasn't. Falling victim to those new off tracks. And the final chicane, I've been practicing for the TCR category tonight as Anderson goes to a 35.3. My goodness, that is a huge improvement there for pole position. Absolutely nailed it, did James Anderson. He should be proud of that. But I was going to say, Brad, this final chicane, I'm going to race the TCR category later in the night, and I have some first-hand experience of how annoying the off-track is here at this final chicane. We're right on board with Jordan Goliker through here, actually demonstrating the pit entry. That's something that we should talk about for the time being. But you just see bouncing off those white curbs. You were able to do that around this track before, but now you can't. If you go too far beyond the red and white curbs, you will be slammed with an off track, and it's very difficult to get the line right through there.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we were alluding to earlier as well. It's not just, because you've got the white lines and there's some grass, and some of the chicanes through the middle of the track have some, like, Astro-ish sort of concrete on the inside of them. But yeah, now those curbs, which these guys used to be able to monster over last year, you just can't anymore, and it's really changed the dynamic of the track, especially through that last chicane and the turn 6 and 7 chicane just before the hairpin as well. The SCOPS guys, like the top SCOPS guys, are going 1.5 to 2 seconds a lap slower just because you can't jump over those curbs. So it's not, a couple of tenths and a couple of off tracks here and there. It's a significant change.
Very significant indeed, and especially when it comes to pre-qualifying, which has been running for the last couple of days for the main game of V8SCOPS. The drivers having to be very careful of those limits. Well, the checkered flag has flown in the session, and we'll see the final lot of times come in very shortly. Doesn't look like anyone's going to challenge James Anderson for that pole position. The MRP driver has absolutely nailed that lap. What can Simon Mazomo do? He's got a time on the board now in P12. So what he needs to do is get into the low 37s if he wants to improve, and the wall of champions and a big old slide out of the final chicane takes him out of the running. That's a shame there. Looks like we might have just a couple more drivers setting times here. Brett O'Keefe into the low 36s. That's a jump from 9th to 5th for Brett. Excellent performance there right at the end of the session. And Jordan Goliker is going to bring it back into the lane without setting a lap time. So Marshall, Goliker, and Mason are the drivers who were not able to get a time on the board. So this be the grid. It is James Anderson and Daniel Stevens who start on the front row, with Gavin Cox and last season's champion Aaron Gilbert 3rd and 4th. Brett O'Keefe and Henry King, one of our series administrators at Oceanic Sim Racing, will start out of 6th place. It's going to be Nathan Tregarthen and Lance Childs sharing the 4th row of the field. Dylan Thomas and Darren Crosby 9th and 10th. Then it's Craig Mason and Simon Mazomo who round out your top 12.
Finishing up the rest of the grid, we have Reese Harnell and Alex John starting in 13th and 14th. Johnny Rowe in 15th, last car to set a qualifying lap. Breck Loxton, Ben Christensen are our lovely administrative race control. And then we have Kobe Marshall, Jordan Gallagher and Cruz Mason all struggling to set qualifying times, which I think is not they're not going to be the only drivers to struggle this weekend, I don't think, but they're the first two. So now we get down to the race.
And speaking of the race, it's going to be a 17-lap sprint. Oh dear, a couple of tech issues for James Anderson, it seems. He's just disappeared from the first spot on the grid. That's a bad time to have that happen. There's only 40 seconds left on the grid timer. Oh, there we go. It's sorted out for him. Couple of technical issues on the grid. Not a good sign if you're a sim racer. Really shakes you if you don't have the mental fortitude. But James Anderson had the mental fortitude to avoid all the off tracks and set a blazing lap time at the front of the field. So we'll have to wait and see if he can build a gap. No pit stop in the races tonight. There will be mandatory pit stops for the races tomorrow night. So the drivers will be leaving any talk of strategy to 24 hours time from now. Last few seconds then. The Logitech G V8SCOPS support series from Montreal. The V8s here, the first of our support races for the weekend. Revs rise. And we are away, and not the best start there from James Anderson or Daniel Stevens. Makes contact with Aaron Gilbert, and they both spin coming into turn 1. Last season's champion coming together with Stevens, who did really well last season. Their 2022 has not gotten off to the best of starts there. Looks like heavy damage for Stevens as the field is making their way through the first sector. Trying up the inside of Nathan Tregarthen is Henry King. He is going to nab 4th place from Nathan, but already starting to drive away from the field is James Anderson. He's got Gavin Cox and Brett O'Keefe in tow.
Yeah, that was a relatively clean start, minus those two right at the beginning, Jordan Gallagher and Aaron Gilbert, but Daniel Stevens and Aaron Gilbert, sorry, but everyone else getting away cleanly. I had a feeling that might happen, but it happened a lot sooner than I thought. Now, James Anderson did have a fantastic qualifying run, but that was 1 or 2 laps. This is 17 around a track like this. Tyre wear becomes more of an issue, so being able to replicate that is going to be a lot harder, but he already has 7/10 of a second lead into the hairpin, coming up to finish the last lap now. So very good start for the majority of the grid. Single file. Oh, who was that in the background?
That's Lance Childs. What on earth happened to him there? Looks like he actually got a little bit of a spin over the curb on the exit of the hairpin. That sent him right into the wall. He is crabbing down the back stretch. He's going to have to pull into the pits and get that car repaired. Oh, that is such a shame for Lance Childs, who qualified in 8th position. Get a virtual racing school replay and decipher exactly what happened to the number 33. His run through the hairpin seemed all right. He was just behind the 035 of Nathan Tregarthen. Actually had worked his way up very nicely, but you'll see here he just catches the grass and that sends the car into a flick, and there wasn't much he could do to recover that. And here is the replay at the start, the contact between Daniel Stevens and Aaron Gilbert. Stevens bolted down off the line and Gilbert was trying to find a way through, but there just wasn't enough space there to get the move done. So a very ignominious start to the season for our reigning champion, and also Stevens, who qualified in 2nd place. Number 3 of Stevens bringing it into the lane now, and Lance Childs is in there too. Stevens tried to continue on, I think, but ultimately had too much damage to really continue. Henry King, meanwhile, up into 4th place now, up 2 places from where he started, and he's chasing down Brett O'Keefe. James Anderson is holding on to a good gap out the front. He leads by just over a second from Gavin Cox, but it looks like 3rd might be under threat soon as, oh dear, it looks like Cruz Mason, who's had a coming together at the hairpin somehow. Very heavy damage to the front of the car. He's going to have Jordan Gallagher and Kobe Marshall try to split their way by him. Oh, that's dangerous, coming down the back stretch, but lets them both go. Will Mason bring it into the pit lane? No. Seems that he's going to try and continue on, but that car won't be very aerodynamically efficient. Oh, the 325 of Kobe Marshall looks like a bit slow coming out of the chicane. Might have gotten a slowdown from exceeding the track limits.
Yeah, he absolutely did. It reminds me of what we saw on Tuesday night in AOG. Sam Blacklock having an unfortunate incident with a car returning to the circuit. Was the passenger then, and absolute.
Oh dear, Brett O'Keefe. A little late on the brakes there. Overran the chicane, and that allows Henry King through up into 3rd. Sorry, Brad. Meanwhile, we've got some news from race control. Aaron Gilbert has been given a drive-through penalty for his contact with Daniel Stevens off the start. Well, that's certainly not an optimal way to start your season, is it?
Definitely not as reigning champion of this series, and he had a fantastic start, but that ended up being his ultimate undoing because he made that contact with Stevens, put them both out of the race, and now he's running 2nd last, but 16th out of 18th, sorry. Dan Stevens is still trundling around. That's going to put him even further down, and geez, that was very aggressive by Alex John over that final chicane. I think he's got to slow down, pulling out of the way unless, yeah, Dan Stevens, Craig Mason, sorry, going through there while Alex John clears that slowdown. If he didn't get an off track, I would be very surprised, but side by side into the 2nd chicane as well. Never mind, Simon Mazzomo holding station.
Indeed. Trying his best to keep Darren Crosby behind him. We just saw the number 1 of Aaron Gilbert pulling into the pits to take his drive-through penalty. That will cost him quite some time. 21.9 second lane time, and an awful lot of time lost from that. Meanwhile, Cruz Mason, he's trying his best to make up positions here. He's just made his way past Kobe Marshall, I saw on my timing, but Marshall's starting to come back at him out of the second chicane. A very good run. Looks like Mason is very down on straight line speed, so he'll want a car to stay in the slipstream of. It's not going to happen there for Kobe Marshall as he makes his way off the track at the chicane. A lot of drivers, it seems, having trouble with getting it slowed down for these chicanes.
Yeah, these cars don't quite have the aerodynamic grip that the modern cars have. The Mustang and the ZB that we will be using in the SCOPS supports are the main SCOPS series. Sorry, I was going to say Johnny Rowe. Yeah, we just caught it then. Got a little bit sideways out of that final hairpin, and yeah, we caught the end of it there. Got a little bit of a wiggle, nothing major, just losing a bit of time more than anything else, but forgot my train of thought now. But Brett O'Keefe having to hold off Nathan Tregarthen, and not far behind them Dylan Thomas as well, who I think was just had an excursion.
Might have. Not too sure. But either way, Brett O'Keefe has his hands full with Tregarthen at the moment. We saw them side by side on the start-finish straight. Managing to keep Tregarthen behind for now. He's been absolutely dropped by the top three now. James Anderson is still leading from Gavin Cox, but Henry King is wasting no time getting up to the back of them. Battle for fourth is basically the battle for best of the rest at the moment, as they make their way towards the hairpin now for the fifth time. And looking at the lap times here, Henry King set a lap time 7/10 faster than Gavin Cox on the last lap, so we might be seeing a potential pass for second here. Henry King has been motoring his way through the field. You just see them up ahead there.
Yeah, I did just notice that as well, so must be, I don't know, telekinetically connected or something. We just had the same thought at the same time. They're holding well with James Anderson as well. Oh, that's Kobe Marshall off it. The hairpin, I think that's just overcooking it. I don't think he's had contact because the car looks fine. Oh, he got a bit sideways coming into the chicane and then at the hairpin, and then the back end just said no, not today. But he's back and going again now. But this battle for third could be a three-way fight for the win, because like I said, James Anderson is not far up the road, but Henry King using all of the road there. It's dropped a little bit of time to Gavin Cook's in front, but the rate he's running, I don't think it'll be too long until he's there again.
Yeah, King's pace is looking magnificent. We'll take another look at this. He hit the wall, did Henry King, so, oh, and a bit of oversteer it seems out of turn 2 as well. So he might be pushing a little hard here. We'll get another view of it. We were on board with him when the hit happened, but watch this. Going into the slow-mo, everyone avoids the wall except for Henry King. And that's going to be a slight bit of damage that he would not want. He's now missing the front right fender.
Yeah, we'll have to wait one more lap just to see what implications that has for his overall speed, because of course this one isn't going to give us that number just yet, but he has dropped now to a second off the back of Gavin Cox, so one more lap we'll be able to find out. But Cox in the meantime is absolutely round in James Anderson in that last lap in a bit, and his lap times are about the same, but still faster than he has been. Gap 0.8 of a second last lap, so really heating up in this top three. And they've absolutely dropped Brett O'Keefe in 5th place, who's also dropped Nathan Tregarthen, but Dylan Thomas is still right there, battling away for 5th, 6th and 7th with Zoma behind.
Yeah, there's a few battles going on around here. That's Tregarthen that's gone for a spin out of the chicane. The drivers had to compromise themselves to avoid him, but it seems that no one else involved in that. Tregarthen's going to get back going with minimal damage to everyone else, but some damage to him. That is the rear wing looking slightly wonky for the 035. And I get the feeling he might have caught the grass on the inside of the left-hander. It's very easy to go for a spin if you're driving a rear-wheel drive car around here and nab that little bit of green stuff. Let's take a look. Oh, he already wasn't having a very good time at the start of the lap, overshot turn 1. And then just up ahead of these guys, there was no contact, far enough away from pretty much every other car. But coming into the chicane, oh, he lost it on entry. The rear end just got away from him. He's having some issues with stability, it seems.
Yeah, he was very lucky in that accident as well. That could have been a really big one, but only a little bit of rear wing damage for him. So he's definitely lucky with that. And I think tyres are really starting to have their effect now. They've gone off that edge of grip level, and now a lot of the drivers are struggling with them as well. Their lap times aren't diminishing massively, but they are still slower than they were even 3 or 4 laps ago. So locking a rear into that chicane, which is really easy to do, will throw you into that fence, and Tregarthen very lucky to only kiss the wall rather than slam into it.
Simon Mazzomo's up into the top 5, made his way past Dylan Thomas coming into turn 1, and it seems that Thomas is now getting pressured by Darren Crosby, but yeah, we'll take a brief look at it here. Mazzomo now well clear of Dylan Thomas and starting to get a good run of pace together, but we did see those race leaders just before. The gap at the front is going down. James Anderson now has lost some of the gap that he built up. Gavin Cox and Henry King are now right on his tail. The gap is at 0.4 of a second, and Gavin is well within slipstream range.
Yeah, you'd be a bit eager if you went for a move into the chicane, and the Wall of Champions is there to greet you every single time if you get it wrong. Even if you get it right, you can end up there sometimes. So Gavin Cox really needs to pick his opportunity well. He's got a couple of really good braking zones where he can send it up the inside. Henry King as well is right back there with them as well. Not much of a gap as James Anderson really struggling now, but Henry King's just inching closer to the back of Gavin Cox's car, and King's definitely in the best position here because he's the only one that doesn't have to look behind him. Both Anderson and Cox have a rearview mirror full of a or both cars, and that really psychs you out. And Anderson again locking the front left into the chicane.
Gavin Cox joined him in that little puff of smoke. It seems that Cox, I noticed his run into turn 1. He turned in a bit early and compromised himself through the first 2 turns. That's allowed Henry King to get back up to the back of him once again. But he's not close enough to go for the big dive into the hairpin. This corner coming up is one of the prime overtaking opportunities on the lap. But you got to make sure that you are pretty much alongside another car before you decide to make a move, because you go in there a little hot and all you're going to do is get into the side of the guy in front of you. Craig Mason holding off Alex John meanwhile. It looks like a little bit wide on the exit there for Mason. There's a bit of a dichotomy there. You can take the tight line out of the hairpin, it will give you a good run, but as you've just seen demonstrated by Craig Mason, you run a little wide on the exit, there's more time that you can spend getting up to full throttle, and you can gain momentum from that. So Alex John is going to have to find some other way past him.
Yeah, it's such an inviting corner, that hairpin, to take a send, because you can run multiple lines, and it's probably why it's one of my least favorite corners, because I can never get it right, because there are multiple lines and I end up going down the one that doesn't work. But if you can get the move done through the hairpin and either pin them shallow or pin them right out wide, then you can kind of cut that momentum swing either way. But you also need to be far enough in front, so if you do have that drag race down the straight, you have that right to the chicane, because otherwise you're going to have to pull out early and you have to wait for a full another lap and reset, which can get infuriating when you're stuck behind the same driver for 15 laps.
Yeah, I certainly know what that's like. reference my races in the Aussie Car Turbo Touring Car Series where I am incapable of making on-track passes, but Alex John might be capable of making an on-track pass here if he can line up Craig Mason. Just up ahead of them, it looks like Darren Crosby has made his way past Dylan Thomas. It looks like Dylan had a bit of an adventure at the chicane and ended up letting him past. Just see Dylan Thomas up ahead of these guys and very close now to Craig Mason. Is there going to be enough of a draft here for a move at the final chicane? Like you said, Brad, you're going to have to be brave if you want to try and pull a move here. But the momentum seems to be with Craig Mason. He pulls out, has a bit of a look, trying to psych out Dylan Thomas, but it doesn't work. At least
always
not for now.
Yeah, that was very close to the wall for all three of those drivers there, but I guess that the joy of running a street circuit is we go side by side towards turn one. Maybe not. It is possible to run the outside of turn one because then you get the inside for turn two that they go through now. But unfortunately for Craig Mason, he wasn't quite there, but still looking very big in Thomas's rear mirror as well as Alex John behind him. So Dylan Thomas is feeling all of that pressure now. That mistake last lap has really cost him not just back position, but now he's got that battle pack as well.
Replay once again, thanks to our friends at Virtual Racing School. This is what happened to Dylan Thomas. Slight lock-up coming into the chicane and just went beyond the curve. That would have nabbed him a slowdown for sure. Plus the lack of momentum from taking that trip over the grass. You cannot put the power down on the grass in these cars. 600 plus horsepower, rear wheel drive, a locked differential. Got to be very careful on the power application. Down into the hairpin once again. Seems that Dylan Thomas is doing enough to keep these guys behind for the time being, but Mason definitely showed his hand. He wants that position. The majority of the drivers have gained positions. Daniel Stevens and Lance Childs are the biggest losers in the field. Stevens, of course, thanks to a contact with Aaron Gilbert on lap 1. But all of these guys are up. Dylan Thomas up 2, Craig Mason up 3, Alex John up 5. So it's been a profitable night for these guys so far.
Yeah, it definitely has. Incidents with Daniel Stevens and Aaron Gilbert definitely helped them, but they're also just running a really good race. Otherwise, most of them are up at least more than 2, so that means they've been making on-track passes minus those 2. But I was just watching the fight for the lead while we're watching this battle on track as well, and Gavin Cox went for a move into the chicane that he pulled out of. It gave Henry a run into turn 1, which never eventuated, and that was very wide through turn 4. I didn't quite catch who that was, but that was right out near that outside wall. Sorry,
Might have been Craig Mason. He's just lost that position to Alex John and he's dropped off from the back of that pack.
Yeah, he ran really wide through turn 5, that long right-hander. And when he hit the brakes, he was still turning. The rear just spun around and he had a massive slide into the chicane. So he's lost a lot of time and positions on the guys that he was battling just before. But this battle for the lead is really starting to come to fruition. We have 5 laps to go at the line, and you could throw a blanket over them. There's 0.6 of a second separating all 3 of them.
Yeah, this is a fantastic battle for the top 3. They just made their way past Cruz Mason, who's been struggling, limping around since his contact with Reese Harnell in the hairpin. But at least he has a front row seat to this scintillating battle as Gavin Cox gets a little bit of wheel spin on the exit of turn 2. Henry King is really pushing it into the braking zones, takes a much straighter line coming into the chicane, but he can't translate it into an overtaking opportunity just yet. Going around that right-hand sweeper, he does open up the exit and up the inside into the chicane. There we go. Henry King now up into 2nd. That was a great move and one that you see happen a lot at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve.
Yeah, I was going to say that's one of my favorite passing places. You just unload the steering a little bit. We have a replay on the right-hand side. This is what happened to Craig Mason, I believe. And yeah, just ran a bit wide. I don't know if there was contact with the wall, but it being out there definitely upset the car. That's where all the marbles are. The car just wouldn't slow down. But Henry King's move around the outside of turn 5, the inside of turn 6 is one of my favourite moves to make around this place, because you just unload the steering a little bit and straight up the inside as easy as you like.
So, when these drivers cross the line next, we'll have 4 laps to go. The gap between James Anderson and Henry King is 1.2 seconds. Henry's going to have to make up 3/10 a lap if he wants to have a go at the victory into the final corner. It's going to be an interesting fight here to see if James Anderson can keep that lead. Here's the onboard of the pass Henry King made for second. You go through this sweeper, it's just flatten these cars, you keep the throttle in, go to the left, and that translates into the inside for the chicane. That was a very cleanly, well-executed move.
Yeah, it really was, and he left the door open a little bit for the apex of turn 7, but he just managed to get the car back across to cut any momentum that Gavin Cox might have had with the more preferred line through the first part of the chicane. So it was both a really good move and then a really good save with cutting that momentum as well. He's 7/10 off of it. James Anderson now. It was 1 second at the line, so he's still within catching distance with 3.5 laps to go. But it's one thing to pass, but it's always another thing to one thing to catch, but one thing to pass, especially around a track like this.
Yeah, it can be very hard to pass in these cars, especially in the first sector. Riding on board here with Alex John as he tries to make his way past Dylan Thomas, lifts off early, coming into the chicane. And it still feels weird to me in an iRacing sense, seeing these drivers not bouncing off those white high curbs. Before the changes to the track, you could put the entire car over them. But now, they have to really refine their driving lines. And Alex seems to have the pace here over Thomas, but doesn't seem to be a good opportunity really presenting itself to him. As Cruz Mason just up ahead lets Darren Crosby go in the red and yellow machine. Almost bumper to bumper coming into the final chicane. Bouncing off those curbs once again. Alex John getting a pretty good run down the start-finish stretch. Will he be close enough to have a dive into turn 1? Not quite, not at this stage.
No, he's playing his cards really well though, because Dylan Thomas locked his rears going into the hairpin last lap, which I think we just caught the tail end of when we switched to them. So he's really burning his tyres a lot more than Alex John is, and if he can just hold station for a little bit longer, that opportunity is just going to come to him by a law of averages. So if he can get a run out of here, or Dylan Thomas locks the rear brake again, he's got the run that he needs. If he can get up the inside down this back straight, which I don't think he quite has, he was going to be able to make a move, but he has a little bit of a look, gets on the brake early. So now his next opportunity is that hairpin, and getting a run through this chicane is really important, but like you said, so much harder to do now, which kind of makes the move into the chicane harder. But he is close enough if he wants to send. No, he decides to take it a bit more cautious, but this run is going to be everything.
Absolutely everything. It seems that Thomas got the better initial application out of the hairpin, but the momentum will be with Alex John as the slipstream comes into play. Looks like he's a bit too far back to attempt any moves as of yet. Oh, bit of drama for the lead. Henry King, he overshot turn 1. He's lost that time to James Anderson. Got into the grass. Now Gavin Cox is right behind him, but I think with 2 laps to go, as long as Henry keeps it clean, he'll be pretty much guaranteed second at this point. Here's what happened into turn 1, just too hot, and locked the brakes past the apex. He was very lucky to actually get it pulled up for turn 2, otherwise that would have been position lost 100%.
Yeah, I was going to say that was really unfortunate timing as well, because Anderson made not a similar mistake, but carried too much brake through the middle of turn 2 as well, which ruined his apex. So Henry King could have had a run towards the chicane, or at least, you know, been a little bit closer, but that turn 1 lockup has just ruined his run. So with 1.5 laps to go, if James Anderson doesn't do anything wrong, then that's his race. But this, on the other hand, is not quite done.
Oh, Alex John, oh, little bit of a wiggle in the braking zone. He goes wide into the chicane, and that allows Dylan Thomas back by him. That would have been a well-executed move otherwise. Unfortunately for Alex John, I think he's now too far behind for any chance of that move happening.
Yeah, he's going to have the best lap of his life if he wants to make that position. We'll see that replay again. Side by side under the bridge. It was all his to take, and unfortunately that wiggle, bit too much brake through the early corner. If he hit his normal braking spot, then that corner was his, but went that little bit too deep, and it doesn't take much to upset these cars.
Well, Thomas and John will be taking the white flag. These guys have already done so, and Henry King, he's gotten all of that pace back. Might have been a couple of errors from James Anderson in the lead of the race. He's lost that time now. The gap will be at 6/10. Oh dear, another mistake from King. The tyres will be crying out for mercy, I'm sure. Right now, it's a case of who makes the least mistakes, and it looks like Henry King has given that up now. 1.1 seconds is the gap between he and Anderson, and unless there's a big mistake for James, there's not going to be much of a chance here for Henry to try and take this win. James Anderson coming into the hairpin now. It's been a great drive from him, pole position, and has led every single lap. And regardless of if he takes the win or not, I think he should be very proud of the drive that he's put on. Onto the back stretch for the final time. Those top three have been so close for a lot of the race. It was a great move by Henry King to get by Gavin Cox. But unfortunately, his tyres were all used up by the time he could really have a run at the number 70, James Anderson. Fantastic drive here from Anderson. Out of the final chicane, he will cross the line and take the first SCOPS Supports victory of 2022. Henry King just 2/10 behind him at the line.
Yeah, fantastic racing from those top three, and Dylan Thomas nearly got passed by Alex John into the hairpin. You can see how close they are there. It's still on. I don't think Alex John's going to be there. Dylan Thomas is going to run him right up to the wall, but line gets there just in time. It was, what was that at the end? That was 1.1 tenths between them, so extremely close between them, but that was a fantastic lap that those two put on. But oh man, Dylan Thomas just getting the job done.
And Aaron Gilbert, well, he would have been a contender for victory today. It looks like he's picked up some extra damage along the way. After his penalty, he will cross the line to finish in 12th place. Jordan Goliker is going to be the last driver to cross the line on the lead lap. No, it looks like Johnny Rowe is still circulating, but he was a lap down when the leaders crossed the line, so I'm not too sure if he's just trying to make a big dash for the pits. Either way, he'll probably be the last driver to cross the line if he decides not to go for the pit lane here. And it looks like that will be a run into the final chicane for Johnny Rowe. Made up one position from where he started in the Alco Holder Commodore, and I suppose now he can start thinking about tomorrow night.
Yeah, there are going to be a lot of drivers thinking about tomorrow night. Mainly Kobe Marshall, first car a lap down. Daniel Stevens and Aaron Gilbert for sure will be thinking about tomorrow night, but we'll go through the classified results and then we'll have a chat about everything that happened.
Yes, so James Anderson, Henry King, and Gavin Cox, your top three. Brett O'Keefe and Simon Mazzomo will round out your top five. 7 places gained for Simon, and that is the most in the field. Great drive there from the Drop Bear Motorsport driver. Darren Crosby, Dylan Thomas, Alex John, Craig Mason, and Nathan Tregarthen round out your top 10, though I think Tregarthen would have been hoping for a bit more with his spin.
11th place was Reese Harnell after his earliest spin. Aaron Gilbert finishing 12th, still managing to stay on the lead lap after his injury and penalty. Jordan Gallagher finishing in 13th. Johnny Rowe, the last car on the lead lap we saw earlier. Kobe Marshall, the first car, 1 lap down with Cruz Mason. Daniel Stevens after his early incident. Lance Childs, the last car running. Everyone managed to finish, which is the important part. Unfortunately for those guys, all finishing laps down, but there is always that race tomorrow, like you said.
Indeed, there is. Well, that's going to bring to an end coverage of the V8s category for tonight. Remember, they are going to be racing again tomorrow night, a 21-lap race with a mandatory pit stop. But don't go away. We've got 2 more categories coming up, Porsche Cup and TCR. You're watching the Logitech G V8SCOPS Support Series for 2022 from Montreal here on SimSpeed TV. Well, what a fantastic run to start off the night here in V8SCOPS Support. And to bring us into it, we'll have a very quick chat to our V8's race winner, James Anderson. James got pole position. Fantastic job there. It must have been difficult to hook the lap up with the new off-track rules.
Oh, thanks, boys. Yeah, what a curveball. These new off-track limits were certainly pretty tough to abide by tonight, but yeah, that lap in qualifying was way quicker than I expected, given that we're all trying to work around the off-track limits. And then yeah, the race went pretty much to plan. It was unfortunate to see a couple spin at the start, but yeah, just put my head down, and I had no tyres towards the end there, so those boys that were catching, if they caught up onto the back of me, they probably would have had me. But no, that was a great race, and yeah, looking forward to tomorrow.
As are we, and yeah, I was about to ask you about the state of your tyres. Must be very difficult to keep them within a good operating range or good grip levels even around a track like this. Just the sheer amount of braking and negotiating these chicanes that you have to do.
Yeah, 100%. I knew from the get-go I wasn't going to push 100% to begin with. I kind of just let the race come to me, and then yeah, those boys behind looked pretty quick towards the back half of the race, so I put the hammer down and yeah, made a couple little mistakes just because the tyres started to fade. But no, I couldn't be happier with the result.
And you certainly should be happy with that result. Well, before we let you go, James, anyone that you'd like to thank from your garage?
Yeah, just a big thanks to Barry Mannon from Mannon Racing Products for having me on board and racing under his umbrella for this V8 series. It's great to be on board with him. And as well, thanks to Jason Gibbs as well for the fantastic livery, and Dion DeGraff for helping with the setup.
Certainly is a very eye-catching livery there. That is James Anderson, winner of the V8s. But now we will turn our attention towards the flat sixes, and it is very foggy conditions here in the session, Brad. They are just beginning the qualifying session, and the drivers might be having a few visibility issues here.
Yeah, they definitely will be. We might not have rain or snow yet, but we definitely do have fog, so I guess that's as close as we can come for being in Canada. I don't know what the real temperature is in Montreal at the moment, but 22-degree track is not freezing cold, but it's getting there, so these are going to be some very quick lap times by the guys. We have an absolutely stacked field today, so everyone jumping on that new Porsche bandwagon, which I'm not going to complain about too much, but I'm very much looking forward to how these guys race around here in these conditions.
Yeah, looking at the specific conditions, it is 19-degree air temperature, 22-degree track temperature, so very cool conditions here for the Porsche 911 992 Cup cars. And looking at the results from practice, it seems the momentum is with Blake Neck. He set a 1 minute 35.598 at the front of the field, shadowed very closely by Matty Jones and Luke Swan in the 087 and 55. This guy here, though, Cameron Dance in the number 6, could manage a lower top 10 run as he comes around to start his qualifying lap. Drivers like Cameron Dance and Tom Hinds, who are both in this session, very familiar with these cars and very quick in them as well. So we'll take a ride here around the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve with Cameron Dance, the reigning champion of the International Region of the Majors Series. Very nice run out of turn 2. Got to try your best to hook up the rear end to get it turned in for this chicane, and then flat out. Oh my goodness, that was so close to the wall. Did he even hit it? It was a matter of millimeters.
Oh, I don't know, but I want a slow-mo of that once qualifying's done, because that was mental. Of course, awesome. This is acting as a mini prelude to the, well, I would say to the Canadian GP this year, but of course, I don't think that's happening. So, unfortunately, well, first time we'll see these cars around here, and Cam is giving us an absolute show in the meantime, sideways through the turns 7 and 8 and 9 chicane up towards the hairpin now. He's got Isaac Edwards 1.5 seconds up the road, which is going to really help him towards the tail end of this lap, because now we get onto that massive casino straight. The Olympic rowing area is just inside this bit of track now, or just to the outside, I don't remember, but that toe off Edwards helping Cam Dance down this nice long straight up to the chicane to finish the lap. Under the bridge is about where he'll brake, hits the brake, and Isaac, unfortunately, too close for that lap, so Cam is going to have to reset.
Oh, that's a big shame for Cam. Going to have to bring it into the pits. Of course, no escape rule active in all related SCOPS series. Ryan Houlihan, meanwhile, coming up to the line. Isaac setting the first lap time, 1 minute 39.59. Let's see what Ryan Houlihan can do here. 1 minute 36.877 for him, and that will put him onto provisional pole. It's a bit of a draft train here, with Robbie Bradbury bringing the Century Motorsports car into the chicane. Struggling to get a good line through there across those curbs, but he will bring it to the line, and it looks like it's going to be a lap in the 38s. Yes, 38.2, good enough for 6th at the moment. Brett Hender, meanwhile, just getting himself into the top 5 as Thomas Hinds sets a mid-36 and goes to P2. Blake Neck is now on provisional pole.
I was going to make a joke about it's 20 years since Bradbury won gold at the not the Sydney Olympics, the 2002 Winter Olympics, so I'm sure that Mr. Robbie Bradbury would be hoping for some similar luck on the anniversary, or the anniversary-ish. Here's that super slow-mo of Cam Dance coming out of turn 3. He is right out sideways. Mark Scaife is having a hell of a time at the moment. He doesn't know why. I don't know if that's netcode contact or if he just pulls it up in time, but my God, he did not leave much room for error.
That was great stuff there from Cam Dance, and the exit of that first chicane is one of my favourite places to watch cars. Isaac Edwards will be setting a bit of a quicker lap time this time around, 1 minute 38.3. Not much in the way of gains for him, but it does get him closer to Robbie Bradbury. Benjamin Faulkner to the line now, 36.8. And that's going to put him into P3. Very nice there from Benjamin Faulkner, but he's immediately pipped by Luke Swan in the number 55. Blake Neck, will he go faster? Yes, he will, into the mid-35s. Absolutely steaming away from the rest of the field in terms of pace. Thomas Hinds is the main driver who's challenging him right now. Will he be able to get into the mid-35s himself? The lap is looking good. Coming up to the start-finish line, that's going to be a low 36 for him. Well, it puts him back up into second place, but my goodness, that is in excess of a 7/10 gap to Blake Neck. That's going to be a challenge to make up.
Yeah, definitely will. And we always say consistency is key. Blake Neck went exactly 1/10 of a second quicker in that qualifying lap that he did during practice. Matty Jones has just crossed the line.
Third.
36.3, so he's P3 at the moment. So 7/10 off of his qualifying position, his practice position. Sorry, so we were watching Cam Dance coming through his lap. Luke Swan on screen at the moment. It's just up the road from Cam, and he's hopefully going to get past just in time. He will, coming through the chicane. It's 36.589 so far, using all that road on exit. That was perfectly driven through that chicane. 33, 34, should be a 36.0. That's a very good lap from Luke Swan. Cam Dance crosses the line, does a 35.8, so 3/10 off a second behind Blake Neck, splitting he and Luke Swan pretty much down the middle. This is nuts.
Yeah, this is great seeing these times coming in, and it seems that pretty much anyone could take pole position at this stage if they nail it. Thomas Hinz is done. He's bringing the car in, and fourth will be the best position he'll possibly get at the moment, having to obviously bring it in thanks to the no escape rule in qualifying. Brady Baldwin, meanwhile, in the number 7, yet to set a lap time. Well, that's going to change now. Sets a 39.19 initially. Actually looks like that lap hasn't counted. He's going to be starting another hot lap here, but hopefully he'll be able to get a time on the board before the end of the session. Fusion Sim Racing's Brett Hender, meanwhile, coming to the end of the lap as Brett Loxton goes to 7th, Shane Best to 19th. Hender doesn't seem like this lap is going to be an improvement. He's going to be starting another one here. One final run at improving his position. Hender's currently in lucky 13th in the qualifying standings.
Cam Dance again coming into that final chicane, see if he can improve. Very good run through there. Doesn't use all the road, but it was very calm and controlled. Running up past pit lane now. That's a good lap. It's a very good lap. That's a 35.765. Improves by just a little bit, 2/10.
No, don't escape, Cam. Oh.
I know. Ooh.
Okay.
He's still there.
All right.
I wonder if he's just parking it. I don't know if time will tick over and he will escape automatically, but that was nearly a disqualification because we do have the no escape rule in effect like you said previously, but
well, he has just escaped off track, has Cam Dance. So he actually requested an escape from race control.
I'm wondering, yeah, running on the smell of a oily rag at the end of that qualifying run maybe, so he didn't have the fuel to get back. I don't know if that'll disqualify him from qualifying. We'll have to keep an eye out on that. I'm sure we'll get word from race control very shortly, but either way, I'm not sure that's something you'd really want to gamble.
Yeah, certainly. Well, coming through into turns 1 and 2, Brett Loxton making big improvements in the final stage of the session. Thomas Hinz is back out meanwhile. He's managed to just cross the line in time for one more hot lap attempt. He's just been put down to P5 by Matty Jones, who's improved to a 36.18. So if Hinzy wants to get it done, he's going to have to find a few tenths. Pete Minute then making his way out of the final corner in the 678. He'll be wanting to try and break into the 37s, and he does that. Good stuff there from Minute. Gains 2 places, putting Liam Hall and Isaac Edwards down the field a little further. But now we are in the crunch time phase of qualifying. The checkered flag has flown. Anyone who's currently on a hot lap will be able to finish it. Pete Minute will just be bringing it into the pits, but it looks like Thomas Hinz is done. Brady Baldwin, it looks like, is also done. Might have faced a couple of issues there. Might have run out of fuel, actually. Not too sure what's going on there. Meanwhile, Brant Tucker for TriStar Racing. It's been a while since I've seen Brant out on track. 37.4 there for Brant, and that will shift him up from 16th to 13th. Good stuff there right at the end of the session.
Yeah, Simon Mizomo just coming through the final chicane now to set his first proper lap time as we watch Ryan Houlihan finish his lap. Simon crosses the line now to do a 1:36.7, so that moves him well up the order from where he was. Ryan Houlihan now crosses the line. That's a 36.4. That's a very good lap time for both of those guys. I'm sure they'll be very happy with that. This qualifying is very close as... Oh, that's not the right way to come out of that corner. Shane Best, who's one of two drivers. No, he did set a lap time. Sorry, Cruz Mason, the only car who hasn't set a lap yet.
And it looks like Mason has been in the pits for the last 5 minutes, so won't be making it to set a lap time for sure now that this session is over. But now we can go through the grid for the first round of flat sixes for 2022. What a front row this is. Blake Neck versus Cameron Dance off the front row. Luke Swan and Matty Jones will line up 3rd and 4th. Thomas Hinds has to settle for P5. Ryan Houlihan up into P6. Meanwhile, Brett Loxton and Simon Mizomo 7th and 8th. Simon making that magnificent improvement near the end. Benjamin Faulkner and Scott Nolan 9th and 10th. And it's going to be Daniel Cheney and Alex John who round out the top 12.
Starting 13th is Brady Baldwin, sitting next to Brant Tucker, Mark Noble and Robbie Bradbury. Starting row 8, Brett Hender and Pete Minute in 17th and 18th. 19th is Liam Hall, Isaac Edwards in 20th. John Courtney and Shane Best round out row 12. I believe we have Aaron Gilbert and Cruz Mason, the last two cars not to set times, as I believe Henry King and Ben Christensen again running race control for us.
Indeed they are, and if there is a excuse me, big enough incident out on track, then the safety car will be brought out. Driving the Porsche Cayman 718 GT4 for the pace car this year, emblazoned in a beautiful blue Logitech G livery. But the drivers won't be thinking too much about that. They'll be thinking of trying to get a clean start here, and with the track as cold as it is, it'll be difficult to keep that wheel spin under control when you get off the line.
Yeah, the launch in these cars is pretty fantastic, but cold tires, like you said, cold track, no traction control. Yeah, no traction control, even though it feels like they do have traction control sometimes. So the start is going to be really important, because we saw last race in the Ford and Holdens how easy it is to get a really good start and then for it to all go wrong. So bigger field this time, 22 cars, so not significantly bigger, but still a very nice sized grid for both races. And this start is going to be quicker than the last one, and who knows what's going to happen.
Who knows what's going to happen indeed. 10 seconds to go on the gridding timer. Blake Neck will be trying to focus on getting the best start possible, but Cameron Dance will have the shortest run to turn 1, being on the inside of the track for that fade to the right. Revs rise and flat sixes at Montreal is go. Pretty good start initially from Cameron Dance, but Blake Neck gets the power down nicely in the second phase. Midfield and the back of the field, there's chaos erupting. We got 2 cars off, 3 cars, as spinning back across the track is Liam Hall. Alex John made contact with him. It looks like Mark Noble might have been involved in that as well, but Cameron Dance has gotten the lead from Blake Neck. Next drop back down to 3rd. Luke Swan making his way past him, coming into the chicane. That's a pretty big change up at the front of the field as Brett Loxton makes his way past Matty Jones for 7th place, getting that position back. But here we go. It is on already at the front of the field.
Yeah, that was a very good start by the first half of the grid. The second half, let me try that again, not quite as clean, but they're now all starting to form an orderly queue. I don't think that's going to last for too long though. Oh, that was Swan running very deep through the chicane. He's going to lose 5 or 6 positions now. This is probably the worst time to do it. Slowdowns are always worse on the first lap, both time and position wise. So he's now down in 8th position, nearly 9th position, with Scott Nolan going for a dive. Daniel Cheney under attack by Ben Faulkner, who's actually just looped it out of that last hairpin, and like we said, they feel like they have traction control, but that doesn't mean they always do, and now he's going to have to wait for the whole queue to go past.
That's a shame there for Benjamin. And looks like he has managed to get it going. But Blake Neck now back up into second place and wasting no time trying to chase down Cameron Dance, who leads the way at the conclusion of the first lap. Same kind of format as the V8s. By the way, oh no, car on its side. This might be a safety car. Who is that? That is Robbie Bradbury, who has gone for a bit of a tumble at the chicane. He'll be requesting a tow from race control. We'll get a replay to see what happened to him. Looks like he lost the rear coming into the chicane, and then got a hit from the 122 of Shane Best. Here we go.
Oh, yep.
Best just went right into him.
Yeah, surprise to almost no one. The safety car has just been called. First safety car of the year for V8SCOPS support, so took a little bit longer than I might have expected. We'll get that replay of the start now. Oh, that was a 77. Very slow. Alex John, who didn't call... Oh, he got a massive wallop, but he caused the field to check up a bit and can't really stop on the grass. Lucky no one hit that other driver come across the track, and that was a messy start for a lot of drivers.
Staying on the replay, because one of these cars at the back of the field had further issues. The next chicane bit, we are being told by our director. Not sure exactly who we're looking at the moment. Looks like the number 15. And that is... Oh dear. Hello. Cruz Mason going for a spin. And it looks like another car might have been involved in that. Either way, the brand new Logitech G safety car out at the front of the field being driven by Ben Christensen. And the field shall collect him. So we'll get another look at that incident coming into the chicane for Cruz Mason. Looks like it might have been contact with Shane Best. Mason going up the inside of Best there, but just a bit of understeer when he gets up to the apex. Tapped Shane Best, but was the one to be disadvantaged the most by that incident.
Yeah, it was a really good move up until that point as well. Just went in a little bit too fast. There was plenty of room given as well, so I wouldn't say that was Shane Best's fault, because he left the room on the inside, but just a little bit too much speed was carried through, and unfortunately Cruz Mason took the brunt of that one. But it was a good move up until then, but up until then doesn't really get the move done.
Either way, we'll have to wait and see just how long the safety car decides to stay out. They haven't given Bradbury permission to escape just yet. They'll probably wait to do it until the field has gone by him. And they're just coming out of the hairpin now, I believe, up at the front of the field. Right in the middle of it, really. But once they all get by him at that reduced rate of speed, then they will give Robbie Bradbury the permission he needs. And very unfortunate there for Bradbury. We saw the incident that he had. Actually managed to get it stopped, and it was outside the track limits too. So I think Shane Best might have been reacting to the incident ahead of him and didn't quite put his car as much to the right as he probably could have, and just completely T-boned Robbie Bradbury into that side-on stand, I suppose, he's got at the moment.
Yeah, I didn't know cars slept on their side like that. That's a bit of brand new information to me, but it doesn't quite look as comfortable as being on all four wheels. And I'm sure Bradbury's kind of like, can we just maybe just get this through so I can get back to racing? I mean, all the drivers want to go back racing as well, but it's even worse when you're the one stuck on your side waiting for everyone to go past. But the tail end of that queue is pretty much past now, so I think we just have to wait for Alex John to come through, who's just exited the chicane now, unless he's been given permission to tow now. But
He has been.
Not-
Robbie
he
Bradbury
has,
back in the
awesome.
pits. Get another look at the incident that brought out the safety car. Bradbury came to a stop, and in comes Shane Best.
that was very unfortunate. I think Shane Best looked like he maybe got a bit spooked by that incident and went a bit too hot into the pits, because that's kind of the only thing I can think. Bit of overspeed, under braking, and then there was a car in the way. If there wasn't a car in the way, then that would have been fine, but fortunately not the case.
Well, lights are off on the pace car now, so we will be going back to green flag racing at the end of this lap. Fuel and tyres, not a problem for any of the drivers tonight. It's straight up 17 lap sprints. So the main issue here for Blake Neck is if he can execute the restart well. Cameron Dance, once the pace car pulls away, will have control of the field, and he can go pretty much any time he likes once they're on the start-finish straight. Blake Neck has to be right on that and make sure that he stays with Cam.
Yeah, that run into turn 1, if Blake Neck does get it right, depending on when Cam Dance does jump, could be on, but of course we can't pass before the start lines, so you have to time that really well, but you can't come from, 30 car lengths back, because then you get penalised. So this start for Blake Neck's going to be very important if he wants to reverse positions with Cam Dance, who, like you said, is now leading this train. I don't know when the best time for him to go is, but he's maintaining speed so far. Still trundles along 100 k's an hour.
And he goes
he's
just
away.
out of the final chicane. Brilliant stuff there from Cam Dance, but Blake Neck has stayed with him. The weave is already on here for Cam Dance, trying to get some extra heat into the tyres as well, I would imagine. And nice single file running into the first couple turns here at Montreal. But Blake Neck is the one who has the lap time advantage. Let's see what he can do to try and get this lead back. Already pulling away from Thomas Hinz, who is holding up a big train of cars. Ryan Houlihan, Simon Mazzomo, Brett Loxton, Matty Jones, Luke Swan, Scott Nolan and Brady Baldwin, your top 10. And already trying up the inside here. Simon Mazzomo just gets past Brett Loxton, who has to take some avoiding action. Oh no, he's tapped Matty Jones around. And Matty Jones will collect the number 55. Goodness me, Luke Swan involved in that incident too. They're going to have to wait for the rest of the field to go by. Swan reverses and attempts to get back going. Oh man, that is such a shame there for Luke Swan, who was one of our top runners in the qualifying session. But the race will stay green. Safety car not required for the time being. Cameron Dance gets a very good exit out of the hairpin.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Internet issues again. Yeah, that was very unfortunate turn of fortune for both Luke Swan and Matty Jones. Probably two of our top 5 fastest drivers, qualifying 3rd and 4th. They're now down in 20th and 21st, so be interesting to see how their recovery goes. Pete Minute, the next car on track for Luke Swan, 3 seconds up the road. Minute qualified a second and a half slower than Luke Swan did, so be interesting to see how that one plays out. But this battle for first is not going to give up anytime soon unless something goes horrifically wrong for either driver, touch wood, but Thomas Hinz is right there with them if it does.
Blake Neck had a massive slipstream down the back stretch. You would have seen it on camera. Simply brilliant run from the number 42. But Cameron Dance will have his hands full in the lead of this race. Down to the second half of the lap now. This is one of the places where it can really go wrong for you if you lose it under brakes or go a bit too deep. Not much to save you, but goodness me, they both take quite a bit of those white curbs. Remember, they're dealing with the same kind of incident limit that the drivers had in the V8 session. You can reach a maximum of 20 incidents before you are given a drive-through penalty, and then 15 incidents thereafter, another drive-through penalty. As we check out the number 7 there, Brady Baldwin making his way up through the field. He's up 5 places now into 8th. A very good run there from Brady, who is the man behind Oceanic Dirt Sim Events, making their return to SimSpeed TV shortly, a bit later on in the year. Looks like it's on for the lead. Blake Neck's going to try and go for it here at turn 1 versus Cam Dance. Got a great run out of the chicane. Dance swept around the outside of him to take the lead turn 1, lap 1, and he's going to take that outside line again, get the inside for turn 2, and keep Blake Neck behind. But for how long? This lead is right on it.
Yeah, there's drama absolutely everywhere. Silent Zomo is all over the back of Ryan Houlihan. Brett Loxton's just run wide at turn 1. Let Scott Nolan through, who's run wide at the turn 3 chicane, and now Brady Baldwin's trying to get in on that action as well. There's fights left, right, and centre. Yeah, yeah, wherever you look, someone is going for a move. Oh no, there's been contact.
Oh, Brady Baldwin getting spun around there, with Scott Nolan having to go wide, and there's also a spin for Cruz Mason, who is having a very rough night. The V8SCOPS supports. Oh dear, the drama is continuing here. Nolan and Baldwin having trouble getting it back going. We'll take another look at it here. So Brett Loxton in the blue car goes up the inside. Brady Baldwin just watching on, tries to take the outside line, but of course it's very difficult to run side by side through there, and very unfortunate for Scott Nolan. He was just trying to keep it on the track. Meanwhile, the lead continues to amaze us. Blake Neck getting a great throttle application out of the final chicane, but I don't think it's going to be enough to fire it up the inside into turn 1 this time. Cameron Dance is doing everything right at the moment, keeping Blake Neck behind. And these guys have raced each other quite a bit, so they know exactly where and how to push it.
Yeah, they definitely do. Blake Neck obviously running in the major series this year. Like you said, Cam Dance defending champion from last year. So these guys Cam Dance hitting the wall this time. Didn't get quite as lucky as last time, so that's going to hinder him a little bit. I don't see too much damage on the car, but it's probably going to be a reality check for him about just coming down just a little bit. Still got 9 laps left to go, or just under 20 minutes if we do go time certain, which I don't think we will at this point. But Blake Nett's just sitting there behind, applying the pressure as he needs to. Both of these guys are very well versed in this, so they both know what to do in each scenario. And I've just seen it's popped up on my screen. Brett Loxton has been given a black flag for that contact we saw on replay just before. This is Cam Dance not getting quite as lucky as last time. It wasn't a monster hit, but that's about as hard as you want to go, because otherwise you start to get steering damage. So this fight for the lead continues, but Brett Loxton will be in the lane very shortly to serve his drive-through penalty.
Yeah, that was for the contact where he tapped around Matty Jones on lap 5. Big shame there for Loxton, but race control is nothing if not fair and thorough, as Dance continues to defend here from Blake Neck at the front of the field. What must be going through the Kiwi's head at the moment? He's no stranger to winning races, especially in this car, but trying to test your mettle around Montreal, very difficult to do. And it looks to me like Shane Best has had an issue. He's gone for it. Oh my goodness! All right, well then, that'll do it. Goodness me, what on? Hearing our director Jay Kennedy absolutely cacking himself in the background. What on earth happened here? Best looked like he got a tap from behind, came to a stop, which was the right thing to do. And he tries to get it back going, but might have done it a bit too soon and got sent to the Shadow Realm.
I'm not sure if that qualifies for the no escape rule or not, but I think he's got more to worry about than that. That was iRacing not top 10, eat your heart out.
Goodness gracious me. Okay, well, Shane Best is definitely out of the race now. Blake Neck going for the move for the lead here at the final chicane. Side by side with Cam Dance in the braking zone, but Dance will bleed off the brakes and let him go, at least for the time being. Now, priority number 1 for the number 6 is to stay as close as he can for the next 8 laps. For the next, 8 laps, I believe. Maybe 9 towards the end. Because it's all about the slipstream, as Blake Neck just proved.
Yeah, these cars aren't massive downforce cars like the Formula 1 cars would usually see run around here, but they do punch a massive hole in the air for the car behind. So Cam Best obviously wants to be leading this race just as much as Blake Neck does, but being second place, especially out of here and out of the hairpin, is not a bad place to be because they're nice length straights. That makes sense, right? The straights are a nice length to get a nice draft onto the corners, what I'm trying to say, not so elegantly. So being in second position, not necessarily a bad place to be.
Neck's already starting to pull away from Cam Dance here. Let's see if they nail the exit of the hairpin. Dance pulls it up very nicely, but Neck gets the power down beautifully and pulls away at the exit of the corner. Dance will stay in touch with him here, but I don't know if he'll have what it takes to put a move up the inside again.
He is there.
Brakes.
Yes, very well run by both of them. That's such a fantastic camera angle. I absolutely love that one. But Cam Dance is sitting nice and close. Not quite close enough for a move into turn 1, but if he can sit around, I'm sure. At this point, we've got side by side further back. That's Brady Baldwin and Mark Noble going side by side down the straight, and Brady Baldwin just in front coming into the chicane, so should have that move done. Very smartly driven by both drivers there. Pete Minute just behind them as well, so they're 2 fresh moves. So Brady Baldwin working his way back through the pack. This lead is just absolutely insane, and it's at this point in the race where you got to act kind of like supercars do at street circuits, where you got to try and save up those anti-cuts. You save up your incident points in case you can start using them later in the race to get that advantage, which will definitely be in both of these drivers' minds, because they're going to come in handy in this last 5 laps as we approach them soon. But Cam Dance running a very different line to Blake Neck through that hairpin, and hopefully it'll start working for him soon. Simon Mazzomo has been all over the back of Ryan Houlihan in the meantime, and these guys have been at it for a couple of laps now.
That they have, and Mazzomo made up 3 positions so far, Houlihan making up 2. Pretty good stuff from those guys. Thomas Hinz just up ahead of him there, and Hinzy's been having a pretty quiet one after the first couple of laps, just on his own. Let's see what Houlihan can do versus Mazzomo and what Dance can do versus Neck. He's keeping Blake honest for sure. Mazzomo, a little bit of a wiggle in the braking zone coming into turn 1 there. We've got both battles here on screen at the moment. And it seems that Houlihan is a little more comfortable coming out of turn 2. It's very difficult to put the power down out of there.
Yeah, it really is. The corner kind of just seems to go forever. It comes back to you eventually, but it's a very long exit out of that hairpin chicane complex. It's technically a chicane, but it's also a hairpin, so very difficult corner exit, as is this one that Houlihan and Mazzomo have just gone through too. It goes on for a long time, but both Dance and Mazzomo are in very good positions to make moves when the time comes. The draft that they'll be receiving will be absolutely astronomical, but the run out of the hairpin, Dan's very late on the brakes. If he can get on the power now, he's going to be in his best position.
Sorry,
No.
Brad. That was crazy. Both of our leaders getting some wheel spin off the exit of the hairpin. That shows you how hard they're pushing.
Yeah, well, not that we haven't seen that yet with Cam Dance's qualifying lap and last lap, but they're both going so deep on the brakes and monstering those curves as they can. And Cam's still pretty conservative on exit of that chicane, which is not necessarily a bad idea, but Blake is full send. Mizomo in the background just went full sideways through that chicane. They're all on the edge trying to get those last positions with 5 laps to go.
There's some pretty crazy racing that's going on at the moment. Fantastic stuff in the flat sixes. And don't forget, we've got one more race coming up tonight. The 2-litre Tourers, TCRs. So if you like what you're seeing for the time being, make sure to stay with us and you'll get even more racing action around Montreal. And you won't be having to deal with my voice in the comments box in the TCR race, because I'll be racing. Either way, the racing that's going on right now, Dance and Neck, as you said, Brad, they are pushing so hard at the moment. And I think those rear tyres might be crying out for a little bit of mercy. Simon Mizomo still trying to round up Ryan Houlihan for 4th and trying to go for the move here. Oh, a little bit of a look up the inside. Never hurt, but it has cost him a little bit of time. Leaders were side by side for a brief moment coming out of the hairpin, but Blake Neck with the wider line got the position back. And now Dance in the slipstream. This is fantastic, the battles that we're seeing.
Yeah, they absolutely are, and I've just seen a message from Race Control that incident on lap 7 with Scott Nolan and Brady Baldwin has been deemed a racing incident. They were both very unfortunate, but I think that is the right call, and Shane Best has been given a warning for his re-entry that sent him to space, and he has since retired from the race. I think his car is still working its way back down to hopefully one of the rivers around us, but this battle for the lead is just as intense as that battle for 3rd place. I'm sure Mizomo is giving that thing everything that he possibly can. It stands at the 2nd to Ryan Houlihan, not quite as close as he has been, but the pressure that he and Cam Dance are applying to their rivals is absolutely astronomical at the moment.
Astronomical racing all around here in the flat sixes. I'm enthralled by how hard these drivers can push these cars. It's amazing the amount of sideways action you can get on one of these things as well. Let's see how deep Cameron Dance goes on the brakes this time around. See how much he catches up to Blake Neck in the braking zones, even on the verge of giving him a tap in the bumper. But Neck is doing this all kinds of right, because he is gearing up for the exits and getting that crucial gap on these long straights. That's what's allowing him to keep the lead coming into corners like this, the final chicane.
Yeah, and Cam Dance again, so late under brakes. That draft obviously helps a bit. Both running very wide. Cam Dance is really on the attack now. That's the closest I've seen to him to the wall all race, and that different line into turn 1 as well, just to try and psych Neck out a little bit. But yeah, that slow in, fast out adage is working in Neck's favour fantastically, and Cam Dance is just positioning his car to remind Blake that he's still there, which I'm sure Blake hasn't forgotten that so far. But these guys are running different lines, but they're just as quick as each other, and 0.18 seconds at the line. These guys have absolutely nothing in it with 2.5 laps to go.
Oh man, it's so close. Seems that Cam is doing quite well for the first sector of the circuit, but where Blake Neck is really getting that advantage is the exit of the hairpin, and that's just stymieing Cam Dance's run. He just can't get it done in a straight line. But again, he just, oh my goodness, I'm amazed that he's able to pull it up like he is. Dance is obviously very confident there with the brakes coming through the hairpin. But again, it's that initial throttle application, slightly straighter exit for Blake Neck, and he's able to keep Cam Dance behind. We'll be coming up very closely now to 2 laps to go. And this is where the moves need to start being made if you're battling for position. In terms of battles at the moment, we do have two-car battles throughout the field. This one, obviously, for the lead. Ryan Houlihan and Simon Mazzomo still battling hard over 4th place. Meanwhile, you've got to go back a bit further here for a battle between Courtney, Edwards and Hall for position 11. This is looking quite spicy, side by side between Edwards and Liam Hall, but it looks like Edwards will get the run there. Also battling is 8th place, Benjamin Faulkner and Brett Loxton, who's been making his way up through the field, and oh dear, number 18 having to yield there. Oh, yeah. That is Scott Nolan having to yield to Brady Baldwin.
Yeah, these guys are back, not where they want to be, but they're working their way back through the pack very well, but also leaving nothing in the tank. Simon Mazzomo still hunting down Ryan Houlihan. Cam Dance still hunting Blake Neck down with 1 lap and about 5 corners left to go. 3 corners left to go. Cam Dance gives a little nudge to Blake Neck. That'll not quite upset the car, but lets him know that he's still there. He's still hungry. Simon Mazzomo goes cautiously into that final hairpin, try and get the run down the straight. I'm starting to look like that cross-eyed meme, looking at both screens and both battles, and Cam Dance is sitting in behind Blake Neck. These guys are right out near the wall. Blake Neck nearly touches the wall that time. He's leaving absolutely nothing in the tank. White flag lap now. Cam Dance is 0.13 seconds behind. Sends it up the inside, doesn't quite make it stick, but he's still there around the outside. Can he do the undercut out of the exit? No, he cannot. Ryan Houlihan has Mazzomo still for company. Cam Dance will focus on this battle for the lead right out to the wide. Blake Neck a little bit sideways on exit. Round turn 5 they go now. Right in behind. Cam Dance pulls out. I thought he might. Goes to the inside of the chicane. Blake Neck's still there. He's going to have the inside for the second part. Cam Dance is going to have to try again in this one. He's got a good run out of that chicane though. Goes straight to the inside. Wheel to wheel. Blake Neck just inches in front. Cam Dance is going to have to brake nice and late for this one. He does up the inside. Cam Dance has got it done. Blake Neck comes back, but Cam has the run around the outside towards the hairpin. He's got the move done. Oh my god, now he's just got to defend through the hairpin down into the wall of champions. This is absolutely insane. Simon Mazzomo, 4th place, still fighting Ryan Houlihan coming into the hairpin. Great run out of the hairpin for both Cam Dance and Blake Neck. Now Cam's going to have to try and break that draft. He does, weaving early. Blake Neck follows for the draft. I don't know if he's close enough. Simon Mazzomo is up the inside of Ryan Houlihan for 3rd place. He gets it back though. This is the closest Mazzomo's been all race. Cam Dance leads through the chicane. Blake Neck looks up the inside though. Cam hits the curb. This is going to be so close to the line. I think Cam will have it done though. It's going to be so close. Blake Neck has the run. This is anyone's guess. Blake Neck takes it. Cam Dance takes it by 4/1000ths of a second. Ryan Houlihan is still... I don't know. No, Simon Mazzomo got the run. We missed that, unfortunately. Hopefully we can get a replay, but Simon Mazzomo had the run down the back straight, sent it around the outside of the chicane. Get that replay now. This is it. Heading up towards the chicane on the final lap. That was a master stroke from Simon Mazzomo. Goes around the outside of part 1, gets the inside of part 2, and Ryan Houlihan has nowhere to go. That was absolutely insane driving by Simon Mazzomo to get 4th position. Very heads-up driving by Ryan Houlihan as well. That was... oh my god, what a finish. I hope Reese got to watch that while he was getting ready for Cheerleader Tours, because that was the finish we all deserved, and that was special to watch. Go through those results now because we don't have much time for Not Turbo Touring Cars, that's on Monday. The Cheerleader Tours. We have Cam Dance beating Blake Neck by 4/100ths of a second. Thomas Hinz had a nice quiet race to round out the podium. Simon Mazzomo sending it on Ryan Houlihan right at the death for 4th and 5th. Daniel Cheney in 6th. Brett Hender 7th. Benjamin Faulkner finishing 8th with Brett Loxton just behind in 9th. Luke Swan recovers to 10th in the end, which was a very good job for him. Not quite what he was after though, but a top 10 is still good for round 1. John Courtney finishes in 11th, with Brady Baldwin and Isaac Edwards finishing 12th and 13th. Liam Hall, Alex John round out the top 15. Scott Nolan recovers to 16th, with Mark Noble, Pete Midnett, Brant Tucker and Cruz Manson finishing a couple of laps down. I believe it was Chris Mason, Shane Best, Matty Jones all pulling out earlier, and Robbie Bradbury, unfortunately, his race ended almost as soon as it started. But that is our finish for the race. That was absolutely phenomenal. I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as we did here in the booth. We will be back very, very shortly for our 2-liter turbo, 2-liter Tourers, the Audi, the Hyundai, and the Honda Civic, all fighting for top spots. For the first time, we have the TCR cars for V8SCOPS supports. I am very excited. I hope you guys are. And we will be back very shortly.
When I'm driving an F1 car, steering wheel feedback is one of the most important things. It helps me decide when to brake and how hard. It's how I feel the surface of the road. Every bump in the terrain, every wheel slip. If my tyres are starting to lose grip, I can sense that immediately. When I'm driving in a sim, I need that same tactility, that level of detail I have in a real car.
Racing games have come a long way in the last 20 years. Nothing's really changed in how we approach force feedback in all that time. Cutting-edge sims are now so realistic, drivers across all disciplines are using them for training. Our main goal when designing True Force was to improve the number of sensations that you actually feel, to put you better in contact with the car that you're driving so that you can improve your performance and that enjoyment of driving on a track. The physical feedback needs to be more immediate or accurate, or a player loses immersion or control.
Game developers are still having to recreate their force feedback from a set library of effects instead of deriving it from real-time modelling.
True Force is special because it levels the playing field for PC and console gamers. You're now getting the extra level of precision and detail that you need, regardless of which platform is your choice. This is not just iteration, it's total evolution. True Force force feedback works differently. It hooks directly into the physics engine of the game. Games already calculate the forces on the tyres and the steering wheel. The True Force algorithm is able to process this data at up to 4,000 times a second. It will even use the game's audio engine and pass it directly on to the driver.
We spend a lot of time as audio designers trying to make each car sound unique and as realistic as we possibly can. Being able to integrate the audio into the force feedback is something that we've wanted to do for a long time, and True Force enables us to do that. And the ability to send the audio to the wheel, to have it respond and vibrate with the loss of traction, really increases my ability to give that immersion to the player.
You can sense the changing surface of the road. You'll be able to feel if the back end of the car is losing grip.
The first time we had it running in the build, I could feel the wheel humming and vibrating as we revved the engine. Our immediate reaction was it really adds another level of immersion.
The first thing you're going to feel with a True Force wheel is the engine note. The minute the engine starts in the game, you will know exactly which car you are driving. True Force is the beginning of something new. This is now the foundation for all wheels that we'll produce in the future. This extra level of information gives everyone all the information they need to learn how to control their car better. True Force benefits any racing fan looking for a more realistic driving experience.
Because winning is all about feeling.
Welcome back to first round of the 2-litre tours with myself, Bradley Wingard, back again. Reese is in the car, so joining me today is Daniel Yeaman. But before we get into the touring car qualifying, we have Cam Dance with us after his brilliant win. Cam, can you give us a quick 90-second shakedown of what that race was like from your perspective, because that was absolutely mental?
Yeah, I mean, I got a good start and led for a bit, and then we got a safety car. That was a bit boring, but then Blake got past, and I knew he was going to be quick, but it was a little bit quicker than I thought he would be, especially in a straight line. I sort of didn't quite have the straight line speed that he did, so in the end, I ended up sitting behind for a bit, trying to work out where I was quicker and where I wasn't, and in the end, it just got to the point where I was like, well, I'm just going to have to send it here, boys, and fingers crossed we pull it off, and we did in the end.
Yeah, you definitely did. It was express post as well, fully paid for. It was a very, very good send. I don't see you in the 2-litre tours, so have you figured out a strategy for tomorrow night? Because obviously there will be pit stops in the Saturday races for all three categories. So have you come to a conclusion for strategy for that yet, or are you not willing to share that information? Is that classified?
To be honest, I actually don't know what to do as far as strategy. All the way that the tyre changes on this car are a very, very small difference in terms of the time taken to do whatever strategy you might do. Diagonals, fronts, rears, sides, doesn't really matter. So I'll have to do a little bit more testing and see what might happen, but it'll be interesting to see what happens, who does what tomorrow, and hopefully I can bring another win home. Awesome.
And before we let you go, anyone you'd like to thank tonight?
Yeah, just first of all, shout out to the TechSense Fitzo Motorsport crew as always, and our partners TechSense Sensors, Renville Harnesses, Demon Tweaks, Fight CRC, Sim3D, Majors Garage, you guys for the awesome broadcast, OSR and the team for the awesome series, all the boys for the awesome racing, and well done to Chini as well on a 6th place.
Awesome, thank you very much, and we will see you tomorrow night back for some just as thrilling racing.
Cheers, guys.
That was the voice of Cameron Dance, our Porsche's winner. Now, Dan, we focus to the 2-litre Tourers, the TCR cars. We have all three on the grid today. I see a nice spread of cars, quite a few Hyundais, a few Audis, and some Hondas as well. And of course, Aussie car on a Monday night shows us how good this racing can be. We're in qualifying at the moment, but we have an absolutely stacked grid today. We have 29 drivers, 31 drivers, 29 drivers. So this is a massive field around this track.
Sure is, Brad. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me on tonight here, jumping into allow Reese to take a moment to actually enjoy the racing and get out there on track tonight and have a go here in the new year of SCOPS supports here. And a big thanks to Logitech G for coming on board to support the support series for this year, and great to also see an expansion to from 2 mainline supports to 3 here with the introduction of 2-litre Tourers. But yeah, sure, definitely indeed, quite the accurate summary there. Thanks to the coverage of the Aussie Car Turbo Touring Car Series. These cars here should all be relatively competitive. The curbs might hurt the Hondas at the end of the lap there a little bit, but we'll see when the times come in, as they actually have started coming in now for our front runners. That should be relatively well balanced over the course of a lap between all the different manufacturers here tonight.
Yeah, and especially when we talk about, as we have so much tonight already, the new off-tracks are a very big talking point this week. So a lot of guys are avoiding we do say avoiding the curbs. We saw some massive curb hops last race in the Porsches. So if the Hondas are struggling, I think I see 2 of them in. So with times in so far, that is Hayden Kirk and Shane Best in 5th and 11th positions respectively. So those guys might still have issues, but of course the off tracks are kind of preventing some curb hopping that we would have seen this time last year. And like the Porsches, these give off a massive draft train. So we're just watching Liam Hall on his qualifying run now in the middle of one. So this is really going to help those drivers, because like all official SCOPS events, we have open qualifying. So if you're in the draft, you're sitting pretty.
That's a good way to put it, Brad. Yeah, open qualifying definitely means it's all about making sure you've got yourself a position in the queue here tonight to get this one underway. Obviously, The 17 lap race coming up after this qualifying session, or 35 minutes if we happen to be constrained by time here tonight. So could be either or there, depending on if we need to call a safety car. Unfortunately, I've missed out on most of the action from earlier this evening, and also not had a chance to do any driving around the updated Montreal, but very much aware of the discussion around the new track limits at this place and the reduction in the curb usage that it requires from the drivers. But nevertheless, you're still talking about curb usage still being present, so we'll see how that plays out here in these TCR cars.
Yeah, and because these aren't like the Ford and Holden, the ZB and the Mustang that we have in our main SCOPS events, or even the Commodore and the Falcon that we have in the V8s we had earlier on tonight. These are 3 individual models, and they are modeled differently across all 3 cars. They all have their strengths and weaknesses, which is why so many people love this series like they do GT racing, because the racing is so tight, but the cars are so different and they have their strengths, and most people are picking the Hyundai. It is pretty much the go-to car. Unfortunately, with no setup, I haven't been able to drive as much as I have, but we still have Audis and Hondas, like I said, in the field, which is always good to see, because we do have that possibility to select different cars.
Indeed, yeah. I think the Honda, has been sort of discovered over the course of racing elsewhere, is perhaps a little bit more challenging to manage over the curbs than the Audi and the Hyundai. As we see here, John Halloran put a 145.8 on the board and go all the way up to position number 2 there. An excellent time there from John, but 2.5 tenths off of Corey Preston in the race, in the qualifying lead there, as Reece Gardner brings the number 94 for Fusion Sim Racing down onto pit lane. And we keep our eyes on track to see who else is still on a lap. Brett Hender. Oh, a bit too deep into the Wall of Champions. Ooh. Never mind that, though. The car behind him has put it into the Wall of Champions there. That, unfortunately, was, I believe, Johnny Rowe there in the 596. Not quite getting that run through there quite right. But, so as you said, drivers coming through here now. But, yes, coming back to that point you were mentioning, that, yeah, different characteristics for these cars means that we'll be able to see different strengths and weaknesses. The Audis will be absolutely lethal off of the line here, and a good launch. We'll see them pick up a couple of spots on the way. As Ben Faulkner in the 042 for the newly named or newly title partnered ICT marketing race on OzCup. Move his way up into 14th place on a 146.89. Hopefully, though, looking to get one more chance to get a flying lap in here, Brad.
Yeah, I just saw Robert Northway behind Ben Faulkner had a very similar incident hitting that Wall of Champions. So I'm wondering if that might be a bit of an issue in these cars. Riding with Dylan Jordan now as he finishes his lap. Carl Sampson just in front, Brett O'Keefe just behind. Crossing the line, 147.7 was his last time, 146.2 this time. So he moves up a few spots from about 21st to 13th. So that's a nice big jump for him. Corey Preston currently fastest on track. Has a bit of a slow outlap, ready to set his final flying lap with 35 seconds left to go. I think most cars are on track at the moment. I just see 1 or 2 cars in the pits. Christian Harmon and Matthew Brunt, the only 2 cars in the pits at the moment. As I say that, more cars are coming in. That'll be their run done. But we have the 596 of Johnny Rowe coming across the line. Alex John just in front of him sets a 147.1.
And indeed, they make it just across the line in time if they want to go for one more lap. But immediately there, the 596 pulling off track, and Alex John in the number 77. Still out on track, but we'll see how he goes. More drivers continue to pull into the pit lane there. Now look to number 52 of Thomas Hinz. Does he commit to the end of this lap? The answer is yes, he does. What is the time going to be for Mr. Hinz? 147.0. Best time in the session so far for Hinz. Across the line here to end his qualifying session, and a solid improvement to a 46.319. Or 46.32 as it turns out to correct. So that's up to P10 there for Thomas Hinz.
Yeah, I'll be happy with that lap. He was not where he wanted to be or would expect. We have a very strong field today. Carl Sampson, Corey Preston, Glenn Postlethwaite, very strong drivers. Thomas Hinz as well. Reese Gardner's very experienced in these cars. Brett O'Keefe just crosses the line to finish his qualifying run. Qualifying run. God, my mouth doesn't work after calling that last lap, last race. That was insane. Car off at the last chicane. I missed who that was. Glenn Postlethwaite. Posy coming up to finish his final lap. I don't think that's a representative time. Oh, it is. Sorry, my bad. I'm thinking of the Porsches. I need to get my facts right. 45.6. That's a very strong time. That puts him right up to, I think, second place.
It would if it counted, Brad. Unfortunately, the lap was invalid sometime earlier on, so no dice there for Postlethwaite. Next up, Alex John in the number 77 for Top Split Racing. Does set up 146.829, and that's going to be an improvement for him here at the end of the session. Up to P 16.
Very good improvement from 20th, so up 4 positions. That could be the difference between dropping 8 places at the start and gaining them, but this is the grid as it stands thanks to Logitech G. We have Corey Preston and John Halloran side by side on the front row. Carl Sampson and Glenn Postlethwaite on row 2. Matthew Brunt and Matthew Pluck rounding out row 3. Row 4, 7th and 8th, covered by Hayden Kirk and Sebastian Murray Westberg. Dylan Jordan and Thomas Hinz rounding out the top 10, with Reese Gardner, Southpaw Racer, and Christian Hermanson, rounding out the top 12.
Over the page then, once more we go. 13th place currently will be held by Robert Christo on the grid. Alongside him, Benjamin Faulkner in the 042. Both Hyundais locking out row 7. And in fact, all the way down to row number 9, it's a complete lockout of Hyundais. Todd Parks will be alongside Alex John. Craig Mason will be lining up alongside Brett Hender. And then over the page to 19th and 20th, we have Brett Loxton lining up alongside Robert Northway. Brett O'Keefe and Liam Hall to take row 11. Pete Minette and Reese Harnell rounding out row number 12.
Last couple of grid places. Now we have Shane Best and Isaac Edwards on row 13th. Johnny Rowe, the last car to set a qualifying time. Then we have Michael Spithill, who didn't set a time in qualifying, but should start from 28th position. And then all of our admin, race control, and safety car drivers on screen right at the end as well. So this is going to be very, very interesting. The first time we've seen these cars on track in SCOPS supports. I'm very excited because I'm a massive fan of this series. We have 28 cars ready to go, all nearly gridded up. A couple of spools from the engine in the background sound like little ducklings, but they sure as hell don't sound like that when we get going.
Get ready for them in just a moment's time here, folks. Looks like we're waiting on perhaps 1 or 2 more cars to make the grid here if they're going to be able to join us. And until that time, 30 seconds until we get this one underway if they're not ready for us at the grid.
Going to be very interesting to see how this one plays out, because we know the tyre wear on these cars isn't the most durable, because we steer, brake and accelerate all through the front wheels, although some of the guys will set the bias back just a little bit to help rotate the car. So managing those tyres is going to be just as important here as it has been in the Porsches and the V8s earlier on tonight. But I think this is our biggest field out of the 3. The lights go on. Here we go. Round 1 of the 2-litre Tours from Montreal. 17 laps. Lights are out. Great start from the front row. Corey Preston getting off the line perfectly. There's been chaos in the back though. Again, no one's facing the wrong way though, so that's good. We are 2 and 3 wide in the background. And Corey Preston's just been hit by Glenn Postlethwaite. They're both off. Carl Sampson's been hit as well, and it's... who is that to the lead? Glenn Postlethwaite leads from Matthew Pluck. John Halloran is in 3rd now. My God, what else is going on in the background? Because they're too wide through the chicane behind, and Craig Manson just escaping punishment from Reese Gardner behind, who's dropped a long way back.
Yeah, goodness me. Talk about 2 wide. How about we make it 4 wide on the front straight and through turns 1 and 2 here. Calming down now as the field gets underway through turns 6 and 7 here on lap number 1 of 17. field mostly going single file, if not a couple of double files. We look here to the front of the field. Postlethwaite leads from Pluck and Halloran down the turns 8 and 9. Guys like Corey Preston, though, they're looking to charge back through. 5 places lost for Corey, but he's already made a couple of moves here, and he's not looking to hang around here, Brad.
Yeah, the start of the race is always the most important because you can lose and gain the most spots in such a short period of time. No one having slowed down so far, but cars slowing up in the mid-pack through the chicane. Lots of checking up, but everyone's through cleanly so far. Few passes. We have Cotton Parks and Robert Northway going side by side down the back straight. We have the leaders going side by side down the front straight. Well, Matthew Pluck and John Halloran at least going side by side into the shame, but they sort out their differences. No one hits the wall of champions yet. Lots of curb hopping though through the chicane. Everyone single file doing the right thing. Oh
there
no,
it is.
That 209. That is Loxton's come undone. Had contact as well. O'Keefe's been involved. John Rowe's involved. That's a safety car. Or maybe he's back running again. Those guys are going to have a long way around, but I think best call would be to call the safety car because that's 2 cars. Yep, they are now stopped on the front straightaway. So I think that's safety car number 2 for the season of V8SCOPS supports. But that was a massive hit for Loxton and unfortunate for everyone else to get involved as well.
One of the cars there already ejecting back to the pits. That's a bit of a naughty, and we'll see Race Control getting involved in that one there. And there is the call. Safety car has been deployed. Field is now neutralised. We see Corey Preston was looking to take an opportunity to get some spots, but he's going to have to settle back in here. And yeah, once again, field neutralised, and we're going to try and take a chance to get this settled and get sorted in a moment here, Brad.
Yeah, we'll get our first of many replays up. I'm sure this will be coming down the chicane or down the back straight. We're with Breck Loxton. He's in a decent position, but I know what unfolds. We'll see it here soon. He comes into the chicane and just gets way too much curb, and we said Hondas don't like curbs, and there it is. And then massive crack from Brett O'Keefe as well, and then right at the end sorry, my apologies, third car gets involved. I missed who that was. Johnny Rowe it was too, who's had a mare of a run these first few laps through qualifying. There's Loxton in the front, there's O'Keefe, and then Johnny Rowe just has nowhere to go and becomes the third victim. And they say it always comes in threes, and unfortunately for Johnny Rowe, he was that third.
Yeah, it's definitely not what he wanted. But here's another look at that race start here, focusing on the 666 of Sebastian Murray Vesberg. In fact, does not get away at all, and that's the cause of it all to start with. Either missing the start lights there, or perhaps just a little bit slow with the clutch slip in the Hyundai, as it does have the racing sequential box. But as it turns out, from that angle, it didn't look so bad. But I can tell you from a couple of top-down shots, we had 4 wide in a couple of instances. Drivers taking to the grass to make sure they got away cleanly out of their grid boxes there, Brad.
Yeah, these cars are quite difficult to launch. They can be absolute missiles when you get it right, but it's so easy to just bog down and have no drive at all. And everyone doing a rather good job of A, avoiding that, and B, getting through most of that first lap cleanly. But that, very slow start. The whole mid-pack had to check up. Great avoiding action from everyone. There you can see 4 wide just behind as well that you were talking about. Well, the only real contact we had was Glenn Postlethwaite on Corey Preston through turn 1 and turn 2. So very well driven by everyone to get through that first lap relatively cleanly, if not a bit scared. But thankfully we all get a chance to catch our breath and refresh our tyres and go at it again at a bit more of a controlled rolling start this time.
Indeed, yeah. As you were mentioning during the end of qualifying there, tyres are important, but we'll take another virtual racing school replay here and see the crisscross between Corey Preston, and that's John Halloran on his inside. And in fact, contact between Preston and Halloran through turn 1 completely unsettles the 98 of Preston and allows Postlethwaite and Matthew Pluck straight on through. And they both say thank you very much. It looks like they're the back end of Carl Sampson looking to try and get through as well, but was unable to make do on that there. Car getting up on the right side tyres for good measure. So Sampson slotting back into position number 4 for that one there. And down 1 place from his starting position tonight so far. Safety car stays out for another lap, so hopefully we'll go green at the end of lap 4, but we do have car still parked on the front straight there of Brett Loxton, the 209. Here's another look, though, at that race start on board this time with Carl Sampson, Brad. Just see there. Oh, goodness me. Matthew Pluck sending it up the inside at turn 2. And that's why we saw... I just caught the back end of Sampson's car getting a little flighty there. So Pluck deciding that he wasn't going to wait around to get the right position on track. And perhaps a little bit of a gamble there from one of the teammates there, given that both drivers come from the same shed. So another view of the race restart. This will be with the onboard of Matthew Pluck as we head down to turns 1 and 2. You see now Sampson and Postlethwaite ahead, and you can see it just goes straight up the inside and then a little bit of a rub and bump. Very lucky that both cars get away with that one there. And that's Jordan Harrelman through on Carl Sampson in the moment. But now you see here, drivers starting to form up under the safety car. Lights are off. We are going green at the end of this lap.
Yeah, and that's what you love to see about touring cars, is a little bit of bump and rub, and there was nothing malicious about that move by Pluck either on Carl Sampson. That was just really good car positioning and gave a bit of a rub. No one got injured from it, and it's what we love to see in this category. So this race start is going to be really important for Pozzi to get away really well without lighting up those tyres and going nowhere, because he can't overlap before the line, but if he does, he's going to be in a lot of trouble. So pace car pulls away now. Pozzi has to keep his speed, 110 k's an hour, and just keep the field nice and bunched up, but he has to get a good run into turn 1, because you can easily lock a front wheel. We saw it in both of the previous races in the V8s and the Porsches, so very easy to mess up turn 1, and if you do on these cars, you're in a hell of a lot more trouble with just understeer and torque steer being such a prolific issue in a front wheel drive turbo car. They go under the bridge now into the final chicane. When will Pozzi go? It's his to control, and he goes instantly. I thought he might. Cam Dance did the same thing last race, and we are back green for the 2-litre turbos from Montreal. So far, so clean at the back. Couple of looks down the straight, but everyone just running single file for now. Nice clean restart. That's what we like to see. Carl Sampson just sitting there biding his time. Had a nap before the race to get through, because his own words, he is an old man now. So great to see him back on track, but sitting in 4th, his teammate just in front, going on the attack of Matthew Pluck, but everyone else through the mid-pack doing the right thing all through turn 3 now, nice and cleanly. And that's a very nice restart.
Yeah, you're saying all doing the right thing, but coming through turn 5 there at Pont de la Concorde, Corey Preston was on the attack once again. He wasn't able to make it stick and has had to fall back into line in P number 10 at the moment for Preston. But was looking for the outside of the 666 as Sebastian Mario Vesberg wasn't able to make it work here. Through the turn 8-9 chicane, a little bit of curb usage, but everyone through nice and orderly there as we make our way down to the hairpin for the first time after the restart. Preston looking at the back end of Vesberg down to the hairpin. He has to go around the outside if he's going to make this one work. Just see there in the bottom of shot, can he get the job done? Not quite. He's going to have to focus on the exit here and get the drive down the back straight.
Yeah, he definitely will. It was a good run through the hairpin, even if he didn't get the move done. And much like the V8s and the Porsches, these guys punch a massive hole in the air. So that draft down the back straight is going to be very helpful. He looks to the inside early as well. I don't think he's quite there for the move. He isn't, so he slots back into line. But he's a very well-crafted racer. He's got good racecraft, does Corey Preston, so he knows when to pick his moves. He's right there again, but this draft train in front of him is causing like a DRS train that we'd see in Formula 1 when 6 or 7 cars get involved. It's great to get the draft in front from the car in front, but then they also have the car in front and then the car in front of them as well. On for second place though, John Halloran is hounding the back of Matthew Pluck. Nothing between them coming down into the second chicane of the lap. Very orderly through there goes John Halloran, Matthew Pluck right out to the wall. We've seen moves out of turn 5 into turn 6 before, but now Carl Sampson on the back of John Halloran. He's lost a bit of time to the car in front. He's got to slow down, I think, because he's pulled right off of the racing line. I'm not quite sure where he got that. It must have been the turn 3-4 chicane, but he's losing a lot of positions now.
Slow down is the only explanation for that one there. And that's put him out of a podium position and all the way back down now into the middle of that field. Just got to find him. P7 is where he has landed as the field makes its way down to the hairpin for the second time here after the race up. But trouble at the 8-9 chicane. 122 as Shane Best is going backwards into the gravel and he's down deep in the runoff in the cut. And number 49 of Liam Hall was down there as well. So while we see the field making its way through the hairpin here, we've got a couple of guys now in trouble and parking their cars up at the 8-9 chicane. Do we get another safety car here? We're waiting to see.
Yeah, that was a very strange incident. Hopefully we can get a replay of that one, but I'm not quite sure what happened to Shane Best. There was a car on the inside. Todd Parks, I believe, must have had a slowdown because he was very slow. Shane Best and Liam Hall were coming through at race speed and they all got collected in the same sort of issue. But
Liam Hall was parked out on track. Sorry to interrupt, Brad. Safety car has been deployed once again.
Yeah, it was big contact into the wall for Liam Hall as well. So very unfortunate for both he and Shane Best who got going in the end. But that was a very strange incident. We'll get the VRS replay of it now. See that slow car on the right is Todd Parks, Shane Best and Liam Hall coming through at race speed and just, yeah, that was space for 3 wide, just not quite coordinated enough. And I think Liam Hall definitely came off worse of that. Shane Best is going, but Liam Hall heavy into the outside wall.
That was a very interesting incident to have a look at there. I might want to go take another look at that on my own time as we cut back to live pictures on board the safety car currently piloted by Ben Christensen there. And the 001 Logitech G OSR Porsche Cayman GT4 brings the field back under yellow conditions, and it means that we are almost certainly going to be time certain in this race, as we are only on lap 7 of 17, but we are approaching halfway in terms of race time duration. So I'm probably guessing we're talking about, well, my timing says 11 laps to go after this one here, but that'll almost certainly be affected as the safety car laps continue here with the number 49 still out on track, but not for much longer here, Brad.
Yeah, just been given the tow now. So I'm assuming no, I was going to say one more lap, but no, we are going racing this lap, so that is very well run by Race Control. Not that any of us are really surprised. These guys have been doing it for a very long time, so we will be green this lap as the safety car pulls away. Posy has the control over the field again, holding 100 Ks motorway limits right now. A couple of guys having a quick look, just a head count of who's ahead, who's behind. We'll be going again. Someone weaving in the background might be in a bit of trouble. But take 2 or take 3 for race starts. Glenn Posey goes early into the chicane this time rather than out of it. Gets a very good run out. Matthew Pluck goes with him. Carl Sampson on podium goes with them. Big gap back to Hayden Kirk, caught napping. But everyone else got to move further back.
Side by side in turns 1 and 2. Matthew Brunt and Hayden Kirk still haven't figured this one out yet as they make their way out of the opening chicane complex. Down to turns 3 and 4. Kirk on the inside of Brunt. Is enough space given? The answer is yes. And I think Kirk there has to concede the fight through turn 4. And good driving from those two, but it allows the top 3 to break away here now. And this time, though, looks like Glenn Postlethwaite had the better run at the start of the race. But as we look here in the mid-pack for the meantime, it is definitely dicey. 2 wide through turns 6 and 7, Brad.
Yeah, this is what I personally and a lot of other people love about these cars. You can run like this for every single lap, 2x2. Absolute peak hour school traffic now coming into the 8-9 chicane. They're 2x2 partway through. These guys are racing very well, giving just enough space, but not an inch more to the driver on their inside and outside. Robert Crisdale at the tail end of this train is watching everything unfold. Gets a little bump from behind, a little hurry up as Sebastian Murray Westberg and Corey Preston go side by side through the chicane, the hairpin, sorry. Preston has the inside run, but Sebastian Murray Westberg has the draft from the cars in front, so this is going to be really interesting heading up towards the chicane as Westberg comes back at Preston, but Preston does have that inside line. Who yields? Westberg does. That was very heads-up driving from both of those guys. Corey Preston still up to 9th now, so working his way back up slowly, but it's not an easy thing to do when these cars are as close as they are. I think that's a move for position. John Halloran on the outside of Matthew Brunt again through turns 1 and 2, but manages to hold station again, and they're side by side again. On board with John Halloran on the outside, concedes.
I'm not sure if that was
Kirk again, but not by much.
To be honest, I'm not quite sure that was a concession from Halloran, but not perhaps Hayden Kirk absolutely firing it under brakes there. He lost that position to Matthew Brunt in that exact same spot, trying to hold it around the outside. And I think he knew that time there, the only way he held on was to absolutely fire it in deep under brakes and make sure he was using every meter of the road he could. Holds on to position there in P5, but now has to work on trying to catch back up to Brunt here and not let him skip away. But Brunt doesn't have the toe of the cars ahead, so that might not be too difficult at this stage, Brad.
No, but he does have the advantage of a bit more clean air. It's not a massive amount, but 2.5 seconds. Oh no, there was contact behind. That was Hayden Kirk, I believe. He's been hit again. There's been more contact. I don't know if it was contact from behind. That was John Halloran absolutely sniping the back of Hayden Kirk, who lost the rear end, managed to catch it, but then who else got involved? Corey Preston just avoids it. I think it was Thomas Hinz unfortunately getting involved. We get a replay because that was a lot happening in a very short space of time.
Indeed, you watch there at the back of the shot. Corey Preston fires in under brakes upside on the inside of Thomas Hinz, causes contact between Kirk and Hinz, and then it looks like Hinz gets a bit of a helping hand there from third car of that situation there. So a couple of drivers there looking to make late moves deep under brakes, and it hasn't worked out. Meanwhile, in the middle of the pack, I can see Reece Harnell just serving a slowdown off of the final chicane there, and that's cleared now. So here's another look at that incident there on board with Corey Preston in the number 98.
That was a fantastic dive. I don't think he did much wrong there. You can see he missed that by the skin of his teeth as well. Thomas Hinz unfortunately getting involved though. He was running a very good, consistent race. But that was just a really unfortunate timing for Hayden Kirk, Thomas Hinz. I'm not sure who else was involved in that as well, but quite a few damaged cars on track at the moment. Johnny Rowe is probably the worst looking car after his crash on lap 2, but he is still running on the lead lap, which is what we love to see. Fortunately, so far head count, you have Liam Hall, Brett Loxton and Brett O'Keefe all out of this race after their early contacts, which is not what we want to see. But Glenn Postlethwaite still leads the way by 0.4 of a second. Matthew Pluck and Kyle Sampson just in behind, but they now have a 4.5 second gap back to Matthew Brunt after all of those shenanigans, plus just outright lap speed. So this is working in their favor. It's 2v1 at the moment. Is that a alternate line for Postlethwaite, or is he had a slowdown? I think it's just a optical illusion with the camera screen and just an alternate line, but he runs kind of deep through turn 1. Matthew Pluck is right there through turn 3, side by side further back though. Into turn 1 and 2.
It's John up the inside as Sebastian Murray Westberg gets the job done for 11th place there on track, and now allows this little battle pack we've got built, about 6 or 7 cars there, to continue to fight over that place. You can see here Top 3 leading 4th through 6th of our second pack. 7th through 10th, our third pack on track, and 11th down to 16th. The 4th group of cars here on track, Brad.
Yeah, we've got battle packs all through this field, which we love to see. This is going to be close if it's going to go time certain or not. We have 35 minutes of running in the session. My timing says 30. Our directors said it's skipping between 16 and 17 laps. So one safety car and we will go time certain. But for the meantime, Glenn Postlethwaite at the front is running just fast enough for us to get that 17th lap to go full distance. I don't know if I'll be disappointed or not if we do lose a lap. I think I will, but Corey Preston again going for a bit of a lunge up the inside of Dylan Jordan. It was there, but not quite enough. No contact, but he gets the draft down the front straight. This pack is 3 cars deep, so he's not having to deal with the 7 or 8 cars that he was just before. John Halloran has just been given a drive-through penalty for that incident we saw, which I think is kind of more than expected. Lead battle pack, though, is well underway. Matthew Pluck right up behind Glenn Postlethwaite now. I thought he might have gone for the move. Maybe not the right time, but having both himself and Carl Sampson there is doing absolute wonders for this field because he doesn't have to worry about anyone behind. Moves into turn 1 again for Reese Gardner, Mr. Southpaw Racer, moving up. Well, after his unfortunate lap 1 is moving back up through the field and is currently in 11th.
Actually up from 11th to 8th, I should add there, Brad. 3 places gained since the start of the race. Actually doing a good job to him, continue to work his way forward since the get-go here. But nevertheless, making a pass there, Christian Hermanson had to make it stick all the way to the end of that one there. Next one up the road for Reese will be Robert Christo, who's currently floating on his own here for a little bit. But back to the lead trio. Carl Sampson continues to be right on board here with Sampson in 3rd place. Happy to hold position for now as his teammate Matthew Pluck continues to try and, I think, gradually work over Glenn Postlethwaite for the race lead. But for this part here of the track into the hairpin, looks like Postlethwaite's got just enough of a breather to allow himself to focus on the exit here and not have too many dramas while he's at it.
Yeah, this has been fantastic driving by the front 3. They are putting on a fantastic show. Corey Preston nearly getting the run on Dylan Jordan. He's pulled out, or pulled in behind, sorry, to get the draft. He might go for a send into the chicane. I think he is. He's looking inside of Dylan Jordan. They run side by side, but no. Preston pulls out again. So, he's just made contact with the wall. I'm assuming you saw the exact same thing I did as well. He's still pointing the right way, but that was a decent hit into those tires. I'm wondering how that'll affect his straight line speed, but he's still with Dylan Jordan, so not too bad. This is the move I was talking about. He pulls out of it last minute. He jumps across the curve. He's a bit unstable on corner entry, and then that's a solid hit. That is a pretty decent hit on that right front tire.
And it is. I think maybe the right rear tire may have took a beating there because that was a lot of understeer wash out through the chicane. To be honest, there wasn't a lot of curb usage there. He made sure to try and really square the corner off, but in trying to stay on the power there, wasn't able to get the car to keep rotating through the midsection and on exit, and it's cost him there with a hit to the wall. But steering looks straight on board. I had a quick check there afterwards, so we'll see if he holds position there for the time being. Meanwhile, though, top 3 up front, still less than 1 second covering all of them at the moment, Brad.
Yeah, they are definitely going at it now. Pack behind, still hovering around 4.5 seconds. So they do have a nice little cushion behind. Speaking of, though, Corey Preston goes one way then the other. He's going to try the over-under out of the hairpin. But Dylan Jordan is right on the tail of Matthew Brunt as well. So this could work wonders for Preston getting that double draft to send it again up the inside of that chicane. Jordan not close enough though, but Corey Preston's getting a hell of a run down that back straight. He's already pulled out. He's sticking with it. He's up the inside. He's going for 2 for 1. That was a brave move, but there was a best intentions to pull out of that. I think that's a slowdown though for Dylan Jordan, who is... No, it's not. They go side by side still into turn 1, and Corey Preston has got that done. Alex John, however, has got himself a slowdown, which I think he's just finished clearing. So just made it in time for turn 1. That was very well timed. Managed to defend from Robert Northway behind. But Pluck is right on the back or the outside of Glenn Postlethwaite. A little bit of netcode contact there, but they're still facing the right way. Matthew trying to pluck this one out just before the end of the race. 4 laps to go. That's bad, I've just been told from JR Director, but come on, I'm expecting a kid. I'm allowed to make more dad jokes. Carl Sampson is still just sitting patiently behind.
Save them for the family time, Brad. Oh, well, nevertheless, I guess if we don't have one per broadcast, I think we might be able to let it slide here. But yeah, top 3, still 1 second covering the group there. Going to jump to another virtual racing school replay to have a look at what happened here. Corey Preston decided to commit under brakes to get up past Dylan Jordan there, but wasn't actually almost tried to go up the part inside of Matthew Brunt for good measure. Wasn't able to make it work. Pulled out, thankfully, to make sure that he didn't hit anyone there. And we just see in the background, Alex John, I think, just taking a bit too much of the new curb limits there and taking a slowdown penalty for good measure, with Preston finishing the move on Jordan around the outside of the turn number 1 there, Brad.
Yeah, it was very well orchestrated for Preston. Not that I'm overly surprised. He's been working on that one for a while, and the chicane is so difficult to pass through, so I'm not really surprised he didn't necessarily make the move there, but set it up. And next up the road is Matthew Brunt. 1.1 seconds now separates Preston and Brunt coming out of turn 2, down to 1 second up towards turn 3. There's that shot over that chicane. That was side by side on exit. Can't get much better than that. Side by side through the chicane. That would explain Alex John's slowdown, who's just gone side by side with Sebastian Murray Westberg through turns 3 and 4. Now Robert Northway side by side with him around turns 5. And Robert Northway doing that around the outside of turn 5 is very impressive. See if he can get a run back towards turn 8 and 9, because he's got a good run, but I think Northway just has the track position now.
Yeah, it would seem that way. These cars lining up pretty much single file here for the time being. They should be able to sort themselves out here, but running out of time to make moves stick. Meanwhile, the fight for 7th place continues. Rhys Gardner has made his way to the back of Robert Christdale and down deep under brakes. Is able to get alongside partially, looking for the drive off of the corner exit. Tries to open up the steering to make it work. Not going to work at the hairpin, but this back straight length is all that he needs to work with here. No draft in sight for Christdale at this stage, it would seem. Pulls out nice and early. Here comes the run to the final chicane. Who breaks first? You'd think Christdale can afford to gamble on braking late here, but no, it's Gardner later on the brakes and around the outside. Clears the nose of Christdale. Excellent move there from Rhys to get through the final chicane and come out in front, Brad.
Yeah, that was really well driven. He got just far enough in front that it became his corner, so to speak. 2 laps to go now, so very well driven by Rhys Gardner, up into 7th position now. And even if he was on the outside for the first part of the chicane, he had the inside for the second part and didn't go anywhere near the Wall of Champions, which is always a safe place to be. Side by side again for Alex John and Robert Northway again. Robert Northway again, getting Roberts confused. There's 2 of them, and they're both putting on excellent shows for us. So, bit of contact with the wall though in that trio of John Northway and Hender, behind, but all still running. No massive amounts of damage. Corey Preston is right on the back now of Matthew Brunt, heading up towards the hairpin. I will be more surprised if he doesn't send it here than if he does. 1/10 of a second separates him. He pulls out early. He's going to go right in deep. A little bit of wiggle on approach, but Matthew Brunt gives him the room, but Brunt will also be able to open his steering earlier. So this run is going to help Brunt, but then Preston's going to have to draft. Brunt's going to have to defend the inside down the back straight if he wants to try and maintain that position.
Meanwhile, we're going to try and keep an eye on 2 fights here. Carl Sampson is now all over the tail of teammate Matthew Pluck. They've got to try and hunt down Glenn Postlethwaite because here comes the white flag. We are going to get 17 laps in here tonight by the skin of our teeth. And Corey Preston continuing the attack in position number 4 here on Brunt. White flag flies. We've got 2 fights here that we're going to keep our eyes on. Plenty more action up and down the field. So here we go. One final time round the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve here. With Preston looking to the outside at turn 1. Brunt able to swing across and cut the line off at turn 2 though, Brad. He's going to have to try another time here, but Preston has been aggressive under brakes these past couple of laps, so this could come just about anywhere on this track, I reckon.
Yeah, he absolutely have. I think turn 6, if he can get a good run out of here and through turn 5, is going to be his best position. If he can open the steering or he gets cut off, that was really well driven by Matthew Brunt to shut that off. Goes one way, then the other. Brunt is absolutely white-knuckle driving at the moment, trying to keep Preston behind, but Preston gets a fantastic run out of turn 6 and turn 7. Brunt's going to have to defend the inside. Corey Preston comes across. Preston goes, Brunt's going to squeeze him to the outside of the track, gives him just enough room, but defends the inside of the chicane, but Preston has the optimum line, so now the hairpin is going to be all to play for both of these guys. But Dylan Jordan is right there as well if something goes wrong. Reece Gardner 1.6 seconds behind if something goes wrong. Preston's got the outside of the chicane. If Matthew Brunt can force him out wide, this could help him. He does. He parks it on the apex. Dylan Jordan gets up to the inside, and now Jordan's in an attacking position on Preston. Reece Gardner 1.2 seconds behind now. I think Brunt's done enough to defend the position. That was fantastic driving, both of them right on the edge of what's allowed. Top 3 are pretty much settled as they go through the final chicane, so we'll focus on this battle. But Posy is going to leave Matthew Pluck home from Carl Sampson in a 2-3 finish. But this battle pack for 4th is not over yet. Preston's 1/10 of a way. I don't think it's going to be enough.
Dylan Jordan though on Preston. Oh, probably
very
needed
close. Reece Gardner, Southpaw racer, finishing only 0.5 behind them, so he gained nearly 2 seconds in one lap on that battle
slow
pack.
down for Alex John at the end of the race. That's going to burn hard. Clears it in time for the finish line, but he drops down, I believe, out of the top 10 to come home 13th. Well, action getting a bit spicy, and Posy putting on a bit of a slideshow here as best he can in a front-wheel drive touring car. Probably a gratuitous use of the handbrake, one would think, in effect there, but last couple of drivers and to make it away across the line. It's, well, in fact, Shane Best, the remaining car, to take the checkered flag. But here's have a look at this through the last couple of, well, from the final chicane here. Oh, goodness me, contact front to rear. Taipan Esports car, I suspect that might be Sebastian Murray Vesberg clipping one of those drivers, and Alex John across the line. So that was Christian Hermanson there in that black and yellow Audi, being given a bit of front to rear contact. We hopefully maybe get a chance to have a look at that one there between the 481 and the 666. Down the back straight final time. There we go, in fact. So side by side into the final chicane here. Hermanson on the inside with Murray Vesberg on the outside, and it just looks like Hermanson there actually a bit too deep, Brad, and as a result, runs wide, and Murray Vesberg looking to turn in and pinch him tight there to go side by side through the chicane. Doesn't work out for Hermanson there.
Yeah, unfortunately, a bit too hot, like you said. Actually, quite a bit too hot, but unfortunately, Murray Vesberg has to turn in for that corner at some point, and unfortunately, Hermanson was still there, and he was going to run wide earlier, but unfortunately lost a bit more time than he originally thought, but still finished the race. And this is how the drivers stand. Top 10, Glenn Postlethwaite leading from quite early on, pretty much turn 2 to take that one home despite 2 safety cars. Matthew Pluck, finishing 2nd in front of his teammate Carl Sampson. Matthew Brunt in 4th with Corey Preston charging back through the pack to finish 5th. Dylan Jordan having a great race, and Reece Gardner finishing in 7th. Robert Christale, Benjamin Faulkner, and Sebastian Murray Vesberg rounding out the top 10.
Over the page, John Halloran, not the race he would have wanted, with contact and a drive-through penalty, sending him back from 2nd to 11th there at the end of that race. Christian Hermanson brings it home 12th. Unfortunately there, the contact at the end of the race, not quite the way he wanted to finish that one either. Alex John, a couple of slowdowns at the final chicane, costly there on the last lap for good measure. Robert Northway, one of our biggest movers up the field, plus 6 positions to finish in 14th place tonight. Brett Hender bringing it home in 15th ahead of Todd Parks, Hayden Kirk, Craig Mason, Pete Minette, and Isaac Edwards rounding out our top 20. Another one of our big movers up 6 places there for Isaac.
Yeah, very well driven by Isaac. Reese Harnell, the first driver outside the top 20. Johnny Rowe, who had a very turbulent night from start to finish. Shane Best, the last car on the lead lap. Thomas Hinz finishing 5 laps down. And Liam Hall, unfortunately, along with Brett Loxton and Brett O'Keefe, out very early tonight. And tomorrow we are back for more. We have all 3 categories once again. 45-minute races for all 3 categories. Grids are set from finishing results tonight, so Brett O'Keefe and Brett Loxton have a massive uphill battle tomorrow, but they'll have double the time and pit stops, and you can join us here for that. We are live again, same time, 7:45 for round 2 of the Logitech G V8 SCOPS supports for 2022. Thank you for joining me for that second race, Daniel. Thank you for joining us in YouTube chat, on Facebook and on Twitch, and we will see you at the same time tomorrow night.
What does it take to win? Is it something you're born with? Is it the grind? Every day. Gear up. Do battle. For the 10,000th time? Or is it pushing to your absolute limits? To be faster. Always faster. Insanely precise. Totally free and at one with the game. Or maybe it's just getting to that place where nothing else matters. Nothing in the way of winning.
Fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got with the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up to
Oh my god! Oh! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
6 very close. These guys I want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go!
Oh no!
That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?